should know. I have never really liked you at all. I cannot hide it anymore. I've been thinking about the future, trying to forget about the past. So many ways that I could change for the better.
This is a true crime discussions channel. We speculate. This is all just speculation. Because it's true crime, it's for mature audiences only. There will be no children allowed, no exceptions. Everything on this channel falls under fair use. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. It's free.
Hey y'all, happy Friday. Happy Friday. It's good to see y'all all here. Hold on just a minute so I can access my live. Hey Meemaw Sandy, Bad Girl, Miss Sarah, Tony, Cara, Tish, good to see y'all. Good to see you. Jenny Jen, my love, Bad Girl. I don't know if I said you yet. Jen just snaps. Love your name. Cajun Juju, good to see you. It's me. Hey. Gray Moon, Annette, Irene, Miss King of Anything. It's good to see you all. Edith, Anders popping out of the bushes. Good to see y'all. Good to see y'all. Roxanne, I didn't even see you. Happy Friday. Teresa, happy Friday. Hey everyone. Hey, good to see y'all. Today we're gonna just look at some hold on a minute. Let me close the door. Okay. Now I'm ready. So today we're going to look at some news stories that I have saved for days like this, but I do want to let you know that tomorrow is Madeline's birthday, as far as I'm aware. If I'm wrong, please let me know, but I'm pretty sure it is. And we're going to do a fundraiser stream for Madeline's birthday. Now, once I get 10,000 subscribers, I can do a fundraising stream on YouTube, and YouTube will match however much money we raise on that stream and donate that as well. However, I have not got 10,000 subscribers. So what I'm going to do is, it will be the only time that you will see I've got Cash App and PayPal links for fundraising. They are specifically for fundraising. So if you, hey Shaboogies, if you donate money to those at any other time, then it's just going to go for the next fundraising thing that we do. I'm going to try to do one once a month. So like, I also can see how much money I make per day, per stream. So the amount of money that we make tomorrow off of the stream, when I get paid, I will donate that. And then if you want to donate to the fundraiser, I'll make a video for however much we get on PayPal and Cash App, and showing you guys how much we made and how I donate it. We're going to donate it to the school. I still haven't called them, and I should have, and I haven't. So I will definitely call them on Monday and let them know how much we raised and how I can get it to them. That will be tomorrow. Tomorrow we are going to review Explore With Us, or EWU, their breakdown of some of the footage from the case. I know Strategic Eyes has talked about it. That's what Miss King of Anything was referencing up top. So we're going to go over that. I'm going to try to pull whatever videos and pictures I can of Maddie, and we're going to look at that. And I'll get up with the school on Monday to figure out how I can send them the money. I was going to donate it to the chorus teacher, but we see now that the chorus teacher is a pedophile, so it's not going to him. Specifically to the music program, and I still might donate it through the school specifically for the chorus or music program. I'll talk to them about that, and I will definitely let y'all know, but it will go to Hunters Creek Middle School in Kissimmee, Florida. Cara gifted 10 Speculation Station memberships. Thank you so much for that. Those went to 4 Pitbulls Across America, Rochelle, April from Illinois, Perfed, Mittens, 1970, I like that, Kayla, Tally, DG, Lucky Shot. I think that's it. Thank you so much for that. That was so very sweet of you. If you guys were gifted, please tell Cara thank you, and I'm going to jump on the crazy train to pick you up on the way to Speculation Station. I'm going off the rails on a crazy train.
That don't affect your account.
Okay, thank you.
Love you.
Love you too. Okay, so here we go. Thank you so much, Cara. That was so very sweet of you. There's not one yet. I'm going to have it up for tomorrow. tomorrow will be the link to the PayPal. I tried to do a Venmo, but it won't it's making me use like my actual phone number. I got a Google Voice account with a different phone number and it won't let me do it. So I wasn't able to do the Venmo, but I do have Cash App and PayPal for the fundraising stuff. Teresa says, when we talked about it last time, it didn't occur to me that you didn't have 10,000 subs. I assumed you did, because why wouldn't you have all? I wish I had 10,000 subs. That would be nice. To be able to get YouTube to match whatever we raise, that would be amazing. But, we'll get there eventually. Miss Sarah said, choo choo, speculating family, hop on this crazy train to Speculation Station, hold on tight and smash that like button, scooch on over and stay seated for this wild ride. Thank you so much. Hey, Irene, I don't know if I said hey to you. We're halfway there. We are. We're halfway there. Yes. The way you can help us get there is by hitting that like button so we get out into the algorithm. So with that, we'll get started. I think this is a story of hope. So let's watch this story of hope first, and we'll go back to the playlist and play some more. This one is titled it's basically a boy walked out of the woods after 11 years. 11 years later, a boy just walks out of the woods. So,
when this missing boy simply walks out of the woods after 11 years of being missing.
So it says, missing boy walks out of woods after 11 years. Mom turns pale when she sees who is behind him. I am curious. Let's see. Oh, let me see who this is from. Hold on just a minute. It's not telling me. It's from Unbelievable Tales. I'm probably going to be demonetized, but we'll be all right. 1 year almost. You talking about Maddie or Maddie and Sebastian. Aliens. I know, isn't that a cute face, Debbie? Okay.
Being missing, his mother turns pale when she sees who is behind him. Jenny Martin never missed her annual hike through the woods on the outskirts of Greenwood. Every year she returned to the place where her son Nathan had vanished exactly 11 years ago. It had been a crisp autumn day, with bright orange and red leaves crunching beneath her boots. Nathan, just 7 years old, had been dressed in his superhero costume, full of life and boundless energy as he darted ahead of her on the trail. That day, he had begged her to let him run on his own, just for a moment, down the familiar path. She had allowed it, thinking there was no harm in letting him experience a taste of adventure. But when she reached the clearing where he should...
Y'all know I homeschool. I used to be a campsite host out at a lake, a local national park, and it's like you can stay there for free for however long, and you clean the bathrooms every couple of hours or whatever. We used to walk the trails all the time, and the kids will run ahead of you. We would look for mushrooms and all kinds of stuff. And I never thought about, them running ahead a little bit just over past where I could see them, because it's a trail in a park. It's safe as far as I thought. And then I see these cases like this and realize that it's not very safe. You got to keep them with you. You never know who could be lurking just around the bend. Hey, Queen Anne, I hope you enjoy them grandbabies. You enjoy them babies. That's so sweet. I'm so happy for you. Hey, Ashley. Miss Holmes, good to see you. As far as I know, it's a true story. Because they're given actual names, so I would assume it is.
He should have been. Nathan was gone, vanished without a trace. Search parties had combed the forest for weeks. Dogs, helicopters, and volunteers scoured every inch of the woods, but no sign of Nathan was ever found. Jenny's life had been frozen in that moment ever since. Now the forest stood before her as a monument to her grief, its dark branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. Yet, as long as she still had breath in her body, she would continue this ritual, driven by an unyielding hope that her boy was still out there somewhere. As Jenny walked the familiar trail, the crunch of leaves underfoot seemed unnaturally loud. The forest was eerily quiet, its usual chorus of birds and rustling wind absent. She pulled her coat tighter around herself, a chill creeping through her, even though the air wasn't particularly cold. It felt as if the woods were holding its breath, and the sensation that she was not alone grew stronger with every step.
I do want to let you know, if you're watching this on the replay and some parts are cut out, it's because I got in trouble. I can try to demonetize the stream and see if that'll work as far as leaving these videos in. That's what I'm going to try to do. But if they still like flag me, I'll have to delete the stream or something, delete the videos. I don't know. Hopefully they won't. We shall see. Hey, Tosh. Happy Friday. Happy Friday.
The deeper Jenny ventured into the forest, the stronger the feeling of being watched became. She reached the clearing where Nathan had disappeared, and she knelt down, placing a small toy car, a replica of his favorite, on the ground. She had left such toys for years, a token of her undying love, and the little plastic toys were now in varying states of wear, some partially buried under leaves or moss. Happy birthday.
That is so sweet. I hope you have a good day at work, Miss Indy. Miss Indy. Debbie said, shoot, hit send too early. I would have kept up. I'm 60, raised my girls as a single parent. The girls could not play out in yard unless I was outside. I was stuck in, not on my watch, right? Hey, Robin, good to see you. Yeah, it's dangerous. Like, I mean, you know, I always thought, you know, we're at a national park on a trail in the woods by ourselves. So, you know, they're safe running ahead a little bit. And we still go on trails all the time. But it's dangerous. We're always looking for medicinal herbs and mushrooms and things like that, especially after the rain. After the rain, we go out on long walks on the trails.
Birthday, Nathan, she whispered, her voice trembling as she stared into the dense trees beyond. I'll never stop looking for you. Jenny's words seemed to hang in the air, unanswered. As she rose, she caught a flicker of movement at the edge of the clearing, just a shadow slipping through the trees. Her heart skipped a beat. She squinted, trying to make out a figure, but it was as if the forest was playing tricks on her. Hello? She called out, her voice cracking slightly. Is someone there? A soft rustling came from the underbrush. She took a step back, her eyes scanning the woods frantically. Suddenly, a figure emerged, a tall, gaunt young man, with ragged clothing hanging loosely on his thin frame. He stood motionless, just beyond the edge of the clearing, as if he had been waiting for her to notice him. Who are you? Jenny asked, her voice laced with a mixture of fear and something else. Something like hope. The young man remained silent. He was staring at her with a gaze so intense, it sent a shiver down her spine. As he took a step forward, his face caught the light, and she saw it. Those green eyes, that jawline. The features were unmistakably familiar. Nathan? She whispered, her voice barely audible. Her knees felt weak as the recognition sank in.
I'm going to look up the names. I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's the aliens. Yeah, you never know who or what could be around the bushes. Good morning, Perf. Good to see you. I'm going to look this up. I'm going to go back to the beginning and look up the names and see if we can validate this, if he doesn't validate it. Shabugi said, I looked into it just now. Sounds similar to an actual story that happened to a guy that walked out after 11 days. Okay, this one says 11 years, so I don't know. We'll see.
The young man before her was the spitting image of her lost son, but older, leaner, and covered in scars that marred his once cherubic face. Jenny's legs trembled as she took a step closer to the young man who seemed to be her son. Nathan, is it really you? She asked, her voice filled with hope, but edged with caution. The boy didn't respond immediately. He seemed to study her, as though trying to remember if she was someone he knew. Then, he tilted his head slightly and said in a voice that was rough and cracked, I got lost. The simplicity of his statement took Jenny by surprise, and for a moment, All the years of pain and searching seemed to flood back to her. She took another step toward him, her hand outstretched. But there was something unnerving about his demeanor. His eyes, though familiar, seemed hollow, as if a part of him was missing. "Where have you been?" she asked, tears welling up in her eyes. "We've been searching for you, Nathan. I never stopped looking." But Nathan didn't answer. His gaze shifted past her, as though there was something, or someone, more important beyond. Jenny followed his gaze, her breath hitching in her throat as she realized they weren't alone. Emerging from the dense forest behind Nathan was a man, tall and gaunt like the boy, with clothes that hung in tattered rags. His hair was disheveled, and his eyes seemed to hold a wild, untamed look. He moved slowly, almost deliberately, until he came to a stop just a few paces behind Nathan. Jenny's face turned pale and her blood ran cold. She recognized the man immediately. It was Jack, her estranged husband and Nathan's father. He had disappeared shortly after Nathan had gone missing, and many in the town had whispered that his sudden absence was a sign of his guilt. Yet here he was.
Don't tell me Dad went in the woods and found this child. Why didn't they come out, though?
Looking as though the years had ravaged him just as they had her son. Jenny's mind reeled as she stared at Jack, her estranged husband, who looked like a man who had aged decades in just 11 years. His clothes were ragged and filthy, his skin was pale and weathered, and his eyes, once so familiar, held a new darkness, as if they had witnessed something terrible. Standing a few paces behind him, Nathan remained disturbingly silent, his gaze never leaving Jenny, yet seeming to look right through her. "Jack, what happened to you?" Jenny's voice trembled as she struggled to understand the bizarre scene in front of her. "What happened to Nathan? Where have you been?" Jack exchanged a glance with Nathan before turning back to Jenny. His expression shifted to one of weariness, as if he were holding back the weight of unspeakable experiences. "We got lost," he said quietly, his voice rough and ragged. "We found another way of living." "What do you mean?" Jenny demanded, her pulse quickening as she noticed a strange tone in Jack's voice, a calmness that seemed almost rehearsed, like a man repeating lines from a play. "Why didn't you come back? Why didn't you try to get help?" Jack took a step closer, his movements slow and deliberate. "We did try at first," he replied, "but after a while, the forest started to feel like home. We found people out there, living off the grid, away from society. It's a place where you don't have to be found if you don't want to be." His eyes shifted to Nathan, who remained silent, his expression vacant, almost detached. Jenny's stomach twisted with a sense of dread.
What do you guys think? Do you think that there's like, I mean, I know there's people that live off the grid. I want to live off the grid eventually, but do you think there's like way deep down in like the thickest, darkest forest, there's like groups of people or a group of people somewhere out there that like legitimately is off the grid that nobody knows about, that kind of are so deep down in the woods that nobody can find them, and they stay away from society like that? Like that's an interesting possibility, I think. Purse says yeah. Coming up.
"People? What people?" she asked, her voice rising in alarm. "Are you saying there are others out there, living in the woods?" Jack nodded, his face grim but calm. "Yes, there are families, groups. They've been living out there for years, keeping to themselves, following their own ways. It's not like here, Jenny. It's simpler." The words hung in the air, an eerie chill settling over the clearing as Jenny tried to comprehend what Jack was describing. "Are you saying you've been living with some kind of off-grid community?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper.
Hey, Valerie.
"Why would you stay there? Why would you keep Nathan there?" Jack's lips curved into a thin, unsettling smile.
Hey,
"It's not a community, Jenny. It's more than that. We found a way of life that works for us, a place where we don't have to answer to anyone, where we can live by our own rules." He spoke with a
Okay, I'm seeing a lot of y'all think that could be a possibility. Hey, Wendy. Wendy said yes, there are people who live that way. Some have done it for a long time. And like, do you think that like, I'm talking about people that like maybe there's missing posters of that legitimately nobody knows about. Um, and would you do it? Like, if you could disappear from society 100% completely, would you do it? I think I would. The issue is though the children, because I would love for my children to grow up like that, like, without all the worries of the world. Um, but would that be fair to them? You know what I mean?
With a strange intensity that made Jenny's skin crawl. His words were almost
Hey,
reverent,
Jitty.
like a man defending his faith. The realization hit Jenny like a punch to the gut. It sounds like a cult,
Oh,
she
ball.
spat, her eyes narrowing at him. Did you join some kind of cult? Is that
Well, Meemaw said, not unless I could still listen to you. Well, Meemaw, you could come and we could drink Kool-Aid together and have sermons, and I can be the preacher man and we can all go visit Jesus next Tuesday. Excuse me, no, I'm just kidding. Um, do you think that it would? I don't think it's like a cult type situation. Like if you go and live in the woods like that, I would hope it's not like a cult type situation. Um, but yeah, like Tony said, I think there is, and I've always wanted to go live in the wilderness. I think I know enough about the land that maybe we could survive. I definitely take my books that I have on how to cultivate herbs and medicinal herbs, what heals what and all of that. Jenny said no, I like my people. I couldn't do it. Let's start it. Wendy said I would take everyone I love and they wouldn't do it. I'd pull my kids out of public schools in the 90s and lived in a travel trailer traveling the US working at Renaissance Fest. I would have to take everyone I love with me and they wouldn't do it. That sounds like a plan though. That really does, Wendy. Gray Moon said, let's start an allegedly speculating cult and live off grid. I am down. I am down. Shabuki said, I don't even like to camp unless it's glamping. Oh, I love camping. I love camping. Like, I'll camp where there's not even any bathrooms, but my husband's like, no, we got to have a bathroom. I love it. Roxanne said, I like my wilderness, but I love my YouTube and shopping. Yeah, shopping would be hard. It would be hard to not be able to buy off of Amazon. Miss Sarah said, I'll come hang out with you, allegedly. Annette said, doesn't Alaska live that way, like ones that live up in the mountains? Yes, they do. Debbie said, Kool-Aid. I'll bring my own cooler.
is that where you've been keeping Nathan? What did you do to him? A shadow crossed Jack's face, and for a moment, a flicker of defensiveness showed in his eyes. It's not a cult, he replied, his tone sharper than before. It's a way of living free from the corruption and chaos of the outside world. The people there, they've chosen to live in harmony with the forest, to escape the madness of modern life. Jenny took a step back, shaking her head in disbelief. Modern life? You're talking about the life you had here, with me, with your family. You took our son and hid him away from the world. How could you do that? Her voice broke as she looked at Nathan, whose expression was disturbingly blank, as if the boy she had known was locked away somewhere deep inside. Jenny, you don't understand, Jack said, taking another step toward her. There's a peace out there that you can't find here. It's hard to explain, until you've lived it. Once you've experienced it, it changes you. It opens your eyes. Jenny's throat tightened with a mixture of anger and fear. What do you mean, it changes you? What happened to you out there? She asked, her eyes darting between Jack and Nathan.
Wendy said most of the time we had power and water, but sometimes we didn't and lived without it. It's hard to be free, but it was worth it to be with my kids all the time and see this beautiful country. That's cool. Yeah, one day I'll tell you my story about that's kind of related to that. I'll have to do a stream one day and kind of explain my life a little bit. One day. Still working on it. Abella said, I've traveled by RV around British Columbia for 4 to 5 months at a time. That's pretty liberating, but it's not hidden away. That's pretty cool, though. I mean, you're getting close to it when you do that, when you travel with, like, just drive around in the RVs and stuff. Roxanne said, I lived in Alaska for 6 years from Glen Allen, just over the Canadian border, and then into Anchorage. I loved it. My family was in Cali, though. That's really cool. I would love to go to Alaska. That's one place I want to live, but my husband wants to be somewhere where it doesn't get cold because he works outside and his joints and things over the years just can't handle it. So he wants to go to like Puerto Rico. I want to be in the mountains where it snows and we can get warm by the wood stove. You know what I mean? Like, I would love that. Mallory said, I've always said once my kids leave the nest, I'd be totally good to head off to Hawaii or Puerto Rico and live in a beach hut or a tiny home and sell shaved ice. That is so cute. That is really cool. That is a really awesome Abellas.
What did those people do to you? Jack's expression remained calm, even as Jenny's panic escalated. They didn't do anything to us, Jenny, he said quietly. They just showed us another way to live, a place where we could be free, where we could be together. Together? Jenny repeated, her voice trembling with rage. You call this being together? You've taken Nathan away from everything he knew. He's not the same. Look at him. She gestured to Nathan, whose face remained impassive, his eyes dull and distant. He's not the boy I remember. What did they do to him? Did they...
Edith said it's okay to live off grid, but he shouldn't have taken their son away from his mother like that. And I agree. You can't just take the child away from the mother like that. Hey, Miriam, good to see you.
Brainwash him? What are you trying to pull, Jack? Jack's calm exterior cracked for just a moment, revealing a glimpse of something darker, something guarded. Nathan is different now, he admitted, his voice low. He's had to adapt. We both have. You wouldn't understand. Jenny's heart sank. There was a part of Jack's story that he wasn't telling, a truth buried beneath his cryptic words. The notion of an off-grid community, especially one so reclusive that it kept people hidden for over a decade, filled her with a sense of dread. What exactly had they been doing out there in the woods? What kind of beliefs or practices had changed her son so drastically? I want you both to come back with me, she said, her voice trembling as she reached out for Nathan. Come home, Nathan. Please, we can fix this. We can get help. Nathan's eyes met hers for a brief moment, and she thought she saw a flicker of recognition, a hint of the boy she had lost. Jack placed a hand on his shoulder and looked at Jenny with a mixture of pity and resignation. We are home, Jenny, Jack said softly, and we're not leaving. The words struck her like a blow, and she took another step back. This isn't right, she said, her voice cracking. This isn't you, Jack, and it isn't Nathan. You've been twisted by whatever you found out there. You need help, both of you. Jack's face hardened.
Annette said, I always wanted to go camping in the snow, but when I turned 50, my arthritis kicked in and it hasn't stopped. Yeah, that's kind of what my husband's dealing with. Hey, Dainty Dane. Dainty Dane said, hey, y'all, I'm here just listening. Is this an after-school special? Possibly. Don't live off grid and go disappear in the woods.
Hardened. We don't need help, Jenny, he said, his tone icy. It's you who needs to let go. There are things out here you wouldn't understand, things that change you. And once you've been changed, there's no going back. As Jack spoke, Jenny felt the enormity of his words pressed down on her. There was an almost mystical quality to his voice, as though he was trying to convey the profound nature of the life he had chosen. But behind his calm demeanor, she sensed a lurking danger, something insidious and corrupt that had wormed its way into his soul. It wasn't just about living off-grid or rejecting society. It was as if the woods themselves had taken hold of them, shaped them into something unrecognizable. Please, Nathan, she whispered, her voice breaking as she reached out one last time. come back with me." But Nathan only shook his head, his expression vacant and distant, like a stranger wearing the face of her son. The boy she had once known was gone, and the realization hit Jenny with a bone-deep chill. Jack and Nathan turned back toward the woods, disappearing into the darkness from where they had emerged, leaving Jenny standing alone at the edge of the clearing, trembling with fear and rage. Jenny stumbled out of the forest, her mind a chaotic swirl of disbelief and terror.
Look, let me tell you right now, if that happened to me, like, I'd be going back with them. Like, if there was no other decision to make, like, they were going to go back regardless of what I said or did. As in, if I couldn't bring them back to society, I'd be going with them. That's your family. That's your child. Like, yeah, I would go back with them and then try to get them to come back out. I mean, continually try to get them to come back with me, but they wouldn't come back with me. I'd be going in the woods. I'd be staying with them. Sorry.
She managed to reach her car and dialed 911, her hands trembling as she recounted the encounter with Nathan and Jack. The dispatcher listened intently as Jenny described finding her son and estranged husband alive after all these years, still out there in the woods. Within an hour, the police had arrived. Officers combed the area, flashlights scanning through the dense trees as they called out for Nathan and Jack. Jenny remained by the trailhead, her arms wrapped around herself for warmth, watching helplessly as the search continued late into the night.
I don't know if this is a true story or not. I'm going to go back to the beginning and look up the names, if it gives the actual names, while we watch another video in just a second. And I'm sorry, Roxanne, that you're dealing with that. That really sucks. I'm so sorry.
But as dawn broke, it became clear that there would be no miraculous reunion. The officers found no sign of Nathan or Jack. There were no tracks, no makeshift campsites, nothing to suggest that anyone had been living in the woods for years. It was as though they had simply disappeared, swallowed up by the forest once more. One of the senior officers, Detective Hughes, approached Jenny, his expression cautious. "Ma'am, are you absolutely sure you saw your son and your husband out here?" he asked gently. The team didn't find anything, not even a footprint. Jenny felt a surge of anger and frustration. "Of course I'm sure," she snapped. "I know my own son. I saw him, and Jack. They were right there, just beyond the clearing." The detective sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "We'll keep looking, but it's possible." He hesitated. "It's possible that grief can play tricks on the mind, especially in a place like this." Jenny glared at him. "I'm not imagining things. They were here," she insisted. But deep down, even she felt a sliver of doubt. Could it have been a trick of the light? Had the years of grief and longing finally driven her to hallucinate? Days passed, and despite repeated searches, there was still no sign of Nathan or Jack. The authorities began to question Jenny's mental state, suggesting that she see a grief counselor and perhaps stay with friends or family for support. Detective Hughes was kind but firm when he visited her one last time. "Sometimes our minds want closure so badly that they create it for us," he said gently.
I'm wondering.
"If there's ever anything more to go on, we'll reopen the investigation. But for now, it's best if you try to move on." Jenny felt an icy chill seep into her bones at the thought. Move on? How could she?
So far, even if I look it up, I mean, I'm not going to be able to validate if it really happened, if they're saying that maybe she was out of her head, you know?
Move on when her son was still out there, somewhere in that forest? She couldn't stay here, not in Greenwood, where the trees loomed on the horizon like a constant reminder of her loss. Everywhere she looked, she saw those haunted green eyes staring back at her. Jenny decided to sell the house and leave Greenwood behind. She packed her belongings, each item carrying the weight of 11 years of grief and memories. The last thing she took down was Nathan's old framed photo from the living room wall, the same picture she had used in every missing poster all those years ago. As she drove away, she glanced in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see Nathan's shadowy figure watching her from the woods. But there was only the dense thicket of trees, standing silently under the gray sky. The toy cars she had left at the clearing had been reclaimed by the forest, swallowed up by leaves and soil as if they had never existed. Jenny relocated to a town several hours away, where the thick, oppressive woods didn't press against the edges of every road. She tried to settle into a new life, tried to put the past behind her.
Like, that looks like a legitimate picture.
But she couldn't shake the feeling that Nathan was still out there, waiting for her, or perhaps something else was, wearing her son's face. No one ever saw Nathan or Jack Martin again, and the townspeople of Greenwood whispered about Jenny's account for years afterward.
I have heard that story, and the one about the family that went missing, and there was like a bunch of money under the passenger seat, and like they were not found, or they were found several years later, and there was a little girl, little blonde-headed, pretty little girl that was with them. They walked out of their house and just left everything, and people were saying that they were hallucinating or something. That might be the one you're talking about. That's what that reminds me of. Not sure if it's the same one.
Some believed her, convinced that the forest held dark secrets. Others dismissed it as the ramblings of a grief-stricken mother who had lost her grip on reality. But those who hiked the old trails sometimes claimed that late at night, they could sometimes see a shadowy figure standing just beyond the clearing, watching them with eyes that glinted like emeralds. What a truly creepy story about an unknown living. Do you think Jenny actually saw her son and husband, or did she imagine it all? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Until next time.
What do y'all think? Do y'all think she really saw something, or do you think she imagined it? Like, I could look it up, but we're not going to know. Excuse my misspelling. I just was late night. Oh, this is the other one I wanted to show you guys. So I'm going to put up a trigger warning for this one. This one's going to be hard to hear. Obviously, it's a legitimate story. Let me see what y'all were saying. Cara said, I think she ate magical mushrooms and imagined this. Possible. Abella said, I was completely alone for 5 days once near the Yukon border. Just me, Lucy, and Bison. That I stayed far from because they're extremely dangerous. Oh, and a lynx. That's interesting. I would love to see that. I would love to see Bison. Bad Girl said that she thinks she imagined the whole thing. Yeah. Yeah, Mara Murray is a good case. Hey, Michelle. Robin said story. Abella said, I don't think it's real. The voice sounds like a guy who makes up stories. Yeah, I was looking at a Grok. My husband has the Grok app, and they were doing updates to it. And I was like some of the stories I actually just paid money today for.
A Pennsylvania man and woman are facing some of the most shocking.
I just paid money today for files on another case that I'm going to probably have to put out on Patreon because it's a horrible case. But I thought about like the cases that have passed that I get documents and like the interrogation videos and things like that on, having Grok write me like a summary of the case and then just making a long video showing like the pictures and interrogation and like having AI help me basically put the case in a nutshell. All right, so this is going to be heavy trigger warning. It is titled Parents Accused of Horrifying Assault, Incest Crimes Against Their Own Children. Gray Moon said, I think that she saw her loved ones. I hope she did. I mean, I don't know if she got more closure after that or not. Like, that would be a hard place to be in. I mean, I'm telling you right now, though, when they started to walk away from me, I would have been like, wait, hold on a minute. And I would have went with them. I would have. Anders said, I used to look at YouTube channels with folks who build log cabins in the woods in Canada and Alaska, but some of them have solar panel for electricity and even internet. I watch a guy that builds cabins in Alaska. He started out building one for his family, and then now he sells them and stuff. He builds them and sells them. It's pretty interesting. And I watch him build them, like he cuts down the trees and stuff. But okay, this is going to be a hard story.
A Pennsylvania man and woman are facing some of the most shocking charges involving a young child under the age of 13. We are going to be digging into how police were able to track down the accused rapists with former sex crimes prosecutor Serena Townsend. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Hey, everybody, this is a Law and Crime legal alert. Google Incognito tracked users' browsing data without their knowledge while mass tort line.
Okay, this is going to be an ad, so I'm going to try to get past this. All right.
Sidebar, and that is not something I say lightly. In fact, the affidavit of probable cause is so disturbing that we can't show you the vast majority of it. But what we are going to do is try to bring you as much detail as we can, as much content.
Abella said, watch Alone in the Wilderness. It's amazing. I think I've seen that movie. I've seen a couple of movies like that, and they're really good. I've seen one that the group, one of my favorite, well, I like their music from the 90s, Pearl Jam made a song about this guy who went to Alaska and was living in a school bus and how he survived off the land, and it snowed and he got trapped and he had to wait for spring to come so he could get out of there and get water and food, and he was having to forage off the land. And it's really sad. It ends up that he got bit by a caterpillar or something that was extremely poisonous, and they found him dead there when the snow melted enough and they could get back up there. But it's a really good movie. It's a true story. I can't remember that boy's name. I could if I wasn't trying to. But yeah, it's a true story. Really interesting. Gray Moon said, I've seen shadowy spirits for a whole year after my father passed. We were extremely close, so I believe that a mother's love is so strong that she saw her son. It's possible. I think so. Wendy said, when we didn't have power and water, we traveled. We had solar panels and deep cell batteries, and we hauled water, so we didn't go completely without. It was just harder to have it. That's interesting. Hey, Itchy. Good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. Thank you for popping in. All right. So I'm going to push play now.
Context as we can to you. What this is a very sick story. And I apologize right now.
Probably, Anders. I think so.
What we're about to say. But these two people that I'm about to mention are now locked up in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, each on $1 million bail. 56-year-old John James DeHart and 35-year-old Sarah Lee Miller, who also goes by the name Sarah Souder. They are accused of raping their own child. The two were charged back on April 16th. DeHart was arrested just a couple days later in Philadelphia. Police put out the word that they were looking for Miller, and she was arrested May 8th. Her last known address was in Luzerne County. According to what is a truly stomach-turning criminal complaint, both DeHart and Miller are accused of sexually abusing their child. Yes, their child. Before I get into this any further.
That is horrific. I saw that somebody joined my Patreon, and I don't know who did that, but to whoever did, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I'm going to work on pulling the criminal complaint for this if I can and put it on the Patreon in case anybody wants to read it. This is going to be bad.
I want to bring in former sex crimes prosecutor Serena Townsend. Serena, good to see you. Thanks for coming on. Just when you think child abuse can't get any worse, now the idea of parents sexually abusing their own children in an incest form of, I don't know what the right word is. I'm curious, have you ever seen or heard anything like this in your career?
I have. It is rare because this is, as you said, the most heinous type of crime one could ever imagine. It's bad enough to have a child sex victim, but for it to be somebody's own child, and in this case, both parents abusing and raping this child, it really is almost unheard of. It's horrifying. And there is a reason why there are separate laws, not only for rape, but for child abuse and for incest in and of itself.
Unfortunately, yes, there's a reason we have these laws because it does happen. It's just unthinkable. I want to go through this with you and we'll talk about it. Let me talk to you about how the abuse came to light back in December of 2023. This is when an apparent witness reported to Manor Township Police that the assaults had taken place in nearby East Hempfield Township. Now, the detective stated that during a Lancaster County Children's Alliance forensic interview, a declaration was made by witness number one. This person's not identified, but it says witness number one stated that the victim number one was previously sexually abused by the defendant, John DeHart. And after the witness came forward, the police did a forensic interview with the victim. So Serena, first, talk to me about what you think a witness came forward, who you think that could be in relation to this victim, and is that usually how this happens? And then talk to me about what exactly is a forensic interviews and how an interview and how that works.
Sure. Yes.
This is interesting. I've not heard many cases where both parents are abusing a child like that either. And that woman, the mother, looked really young. Like, she looked like she couldn't be much older than maybe 19 or 20 to me. Maybe I'm being graceful. I don't know.
So what we see very often in child abuse cases, sexual abuse cases, is a delayed outcry. Delayed outcry is essentially a legal term for a child who was sexually abused or raped and did not tell anybody for quite some time. This is very, very common for obvious reasons. The child is confused. The child is scared. Obviously, oftentimes the child is living with the person.
That woman right there looks really young. Like, she don't look much older than like possibly 20, 21 to me. I mean, I could be wrong, but like, and then this old creeper. I mean, he was already with the mom that looks really young. God bless this poor child. I think they said younger than 13 or 13, around 13 from what I understand. Hey, Caroline. Sorry, I was trying to highlight your comment. Hold on. Caroline said, the mother looks a lot younger than the father. Wonder how old she was when he got involved with her. Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm thinking there might be a correlation. Teresa said, red flags for sure. Bad girl said mid-20s. Robin said he looks like he could be her father. He does, doesn't he? Definitely concerning.
Because sadly, we know that sexual abuse of children usually happens by somebody that the child knows. It's rare that it's the actual parent, and it's horrifying, but usually it is somebody that the child knows, and therefore the child usually does not disclose the sexual activity or the rape until much later. Oftentimes, whoever finds out about it is also either a relative or a teacher or somebody that the child has grown to trust, even a friend. So this witness, this mysterious witness, could possibly be another relative or a teacher or, again, a friend that perhaps this person trusts.
And forensic interviews, those are very sensitive. How do those work?
Very sensitive.
So this was in Pennsylvania, Phony. I don't know how old they are. Anders, I think he definitely groomed the young mother.
There is a specific sort of training that's required to interview successfully a person who was so badly traumatized as a child. What happens when you are raped, especially when you're a child, is you kind of encode those memories differently, and your ability to retell what happened to you is very different than somebody who was, maybe robbed as an adult or assaulted at a bar or something like that. So a forensic interview is one where a specialized detective who's taken specialized training knows how to ask you certain types of questions in a certain type of way to make you comfortable and for you to be able to access those traumatizing memories.
Let's talk about those memories. Going through this court filing, it says, quote, victim number one stated that they were sexually, physically, and emotionally abused by their whole blood father, who they identified as the defendant, John DeHart. Victim number one was asked who John DeHart was to them, and they responded with, not a really great person. Victim number one stated that the sexual abuse occurred from the age of blank until the age of blank, when victim number one was separated from the defendant in 2013. So the complaint has the numbers redacted, but reporting indicates that the victim was between the ages of 4 and 6. Process that for a second.
Jesus.
4 and 6. In Sarah Miller's affidavit,
Jesus. Oh my God. Between the ages of 4 and 6? Jesus.
paperwork, it names her instead of DeHart. Otherwise, the affidavit is nearly the same. So both the mother and the father are allegedly complicit in this abuse. And the criminal complaint goes into graphic detail about what the child's parents forced them to do. Again, I'm not going to get into it, but there are a few parts of the affidavit that stand out, and I want to get Serena's perspective on it. So the affidavit states, quote, victim number 1 stated that a form of punishment was that they would be escorted to the basement and told to sit by the door. The lights, which were previously on, would then be turned out. Victim number 1 reported that when they were in the basement, they would be without clothing for approximately 1 to 2 hours. Victim number 1 stated that the punishment would end by John unlocking the basement door and providing victim number 1 with clothes. Victim number 1 also reported that on one occasion in the basement, victim number 1 was unclothed and John pointed a small gun at them. John reportedly told victim number 1, this is a warning, when pointing the gun at victim number 1 for approximately 5 seconds. Serena, your reaction?
Yeah, listen, as traumatizing as the rape is in and of itself, you don't even need to ask whether this poor child was, consented. There is no such thing as consent when this child is as young as this child was. But then to add on the absolute torture of being locked in a basement while naked, being, threatened at gunpoint by your own father. I mean, I don't know how this child comes back from this. It is the worst kind of thing that could ever happen to a person. And, the defendants are going to be facing, hopefully, a very long time in prison for what they did. This is above and beyond sexual depravity. This is absolute torture.
Unfortunately, there were other children who also lived in this home. So victim number 2 and victim number 3 seem to have escaped sexual abuse, at least according to the criminal complaints, but they were still allegedly subject to physical and emotional abuse. It reads, quote, on Thursday, March 28th, 2024, victim number 2 and victim number 3 were forensically interviewed separately. Victim number 2 reported that John picked them up and took them over to the oven in the kitchen as if John was going to put them inside. Victim number 3 stated that they were standing in the corner of the kitchen and John picked them up and said something along the lines of, who wants to be my dinner? The affidavit narrative ends with a heartbreaking statement after the victim described an assault in the shower. Victim number 1 stated that Sarah kept explaining that what was happening in the shower was normal and not to be scared. Victim number 1 stated that since it was their mother saying these things, they believed her. Serena, I know these are just allegations, but wow. I mean, that alleged psychological manipulation is to another level.
It is. And that's why this is really almost completely unheard.
Y'all, I'm literally nauseous right now. Like, I literally feel like I'm going to throw up. My God. I don't even, I'm speechless. Jesus. Oh my God, y'all. Hey, Natasha.
Heard of. It's monstrous. These people took, the most beautiful thing that you could be as a parent, a mother or a father. And you would think that they would treat their children like royalty,
right,
like what they should be treated. And they took what would normally be a beautiful experience and turned it into a living nightmare for their children. It can't be understated. It's the worst thing that could possibly ever happen. A child trusting their mother, trusting their father that, what they're exposing them to is normal, is okay.
And that happens, right? That happens. The victim is made to believe that it's your fault or this is normal. And that psychological trauma can sometimes, be harder to recover from than the actual physical trauma.
Absolutely. it is quite telling. I did a little bit of research on this individual, on John DeHart, and it seemed like he'd had a past with
Yeah,
other
we're going to get into that. We're going to save that because we're going to get into that too.
Sure.
But this also the threats, putting them in the oven, this level of punishment. Have you ever seen anything like this? Hopefully you haven't, but I don't know.
You know, I've seen a lot in my career, and I really have not seen anything like this. I can't explain it. Nobody can explain it. Hopefully this is hopefully something that almost never happens, and we have to treat it like that. They have to be,
Yeah.
if this did happen, punished accordingly.
By the way, you don't have just victims. You have other witnesses here, right? So every one of these victims who are testifying, who are providing this information for forensic interviews, separated, right? So they're separated from one another. It's not like they can, and that's important, right?
That's right. So with these forensic interviews, you have to be extremely delicate
Hey, Tish.
and make sure that you don't have one person in the room with other people so that they could be influenced by the story. If these forensic interviews are happening correctly and these individuals are telling the same story but
God
separately,
almighty.
then it smacks of the truth. I mean, it
Yep.
lends credibility to the storyteller.
You talked about the charges. Let's talk about them. So there's specific charges that DeHart and Miller are facing. DeHart faces 15 charges. Miller's charged with 13. DeHart include 2 counts of rape of a child, 2 counts of statutory sexual assault, 2 counts of involuntary deviant sexual intercourse with a child, 2 counts of incest, 3 counts of indecent assault of a person less than 13 years of age, 1 count of corruption of minors, 2 counts of endangering the welfare of a child, 1 count of terroristic threats. According to the additional information that accompanies the statute for rape of a child, the criminal complaint says that the defendant forced victim number 1 to have intercourse with Sarah Miller. Another
my
says
God.
that DeHart committed statutory sexual assault when he forced victim 1 to have intercourse with Miller. And according to the statute, in that the above named defendant did engage in sexual intercourse with victim number 1 under the age of 16 years, and that person is 11 or more years older than victim 1, and victim 1 and the defendant are not married to each other. DeHart also faces accusations of incest.
Oh
Quote,
my
and the
God.
above named defendant knowingly marries, cohabitates with, or has sexual intercourse with victim 1, who is an ancestor, descendant, brother, sister of the whole, or half-blood, or uncle, aunt, nephew, or niece of the whole blood, and is under the age of 13 years. That may have been a little hard to file, but
Oh my
the
God.
complaint specifically states that DeHart is the whole blood father to victim 1. Miller is the whole blood mother to victim 1. And this happened. And the first, by the way, endangering the welfare of children count comes from the allegations that DeHart locked victim 1 in the basement for hours, pointed a gun at their head. The second count is the allegations from the other 2 victims that DeHart had tried to put them in an oven. And the terroristic threat charge comes
Jesus.
from the allegation that DeHart pointed a gun at the victim's head and said, "This is a warning." Serena, talk to me about these charges. I think, first of all, how serious they are, what we're looking at as a penalty, but also how are they able to be brought? There's no time bar here. There's no statute of limitations, even though these are offenses that allegedly happened a long time ago.
Yeah, so these are very, very serious charges carrying potential decades in prison, thankfully. The indictment and the fact that the prosecutor
Y'all, this is like the worst case I've ever heard of. This is absolutely insane. I pray to God that those children get the help they need and can recover from this. This is horrific. Natasha said, poor babies. I know. Roxanne said, this is clearly generational abuse. Look at the mother's age versus the father. So sad. Yeah, I think so.
prosecution has thrown this many charges at the case, it tells me that they wanted to capture every possible bad act that was committed, every possible crime. Why? Because they want to make sure that they get a conviction. It's not, these kinds of cases are so horrifying that juries do tend to convict, but it's also very difficult to have this child, even though this child is now a teenager, take the stand and testify about this traumatic event. And so they want to protect that conviction. They want to put as many charges as possible so that if they don't get one, if they can't prove, 3 or 4 of them beyond a reasonable doubt, they'll at least still have many to choose from in order to sentence these individuals appropriately if and when they are convicted.
Yeah.
Statute of limitations is a very interesting concept, especially with respect to child sex abuse and rape, and has recently been changed in order to allow more cases to proceed that otherwise would have been barred by the statute of limitations. Even though these cases, these incidents happened a while ago, like you mentioned, 2011 to 2013, the statute of limitations on this type of case allows for the prosecution and even a civil lawsuit much later in life. Why?
Thank God. Thank God.
Because lawmakers understand now that children do delay in disclosing these kinds of horrible events. And we don't want society to suffer, and we don't want to preclude that child, now an adult or almost an adult, to be able to seek justice for what happened to them so long ago.
Yeah.
So
No,
we are allowed to proceed at this point.
And that makes a total sense. And I talked about the penalty. I think rape of a child in and of itself is 20 years in prison, the maximum. And if they're convicted across the board of everything, or they plead guilty to everything, I imagine the judge would issue consecutive sentences one after the other, so that they're never released. But this is where it gets interesting, because Miller, faces similar charges minus the terroristic threats and endangering the welfare of a child. But there's more to this story, because Miller and DeHart have previously been convicted of child abuse. That's what we were talking about. DeHart has a very active online presence. He posts TikTok videos several times a week. According to his personal website, he's a poet, film writer, novelist, social activist, pastor. He also claims to be a former police and corrections officer, but he's previously been convicted in Pennsylvania of endangering the welfare of a child in 2013, indecent sexual intercourse with a minor, and endangering the welfare of children in 2014. He entered guilty pleas in both cases. He was sentenced to 6 to 12 months in prison for the 2013 conviction and 4 to 8 years for the 2014 conviction. He also had to register as a sex offender. That's our understanding. And then with Sarah Lee Miller, doesn't seem to have much of an online presence, but we were able to find her criminal record. And the reports indicate that she pleaded guilty in 2014 to corruption of minors, was sentenced to 11 to 23 months in prison with 4 years probation. She was charged again in 2017 when she didn't register as a sex offender with state police. So she was sentenced to 10 to 36 months in prison. How are they out to do this? That's my question. How were they out to allegedly do this? I know these are allegations. I know they're innocent until proven guilty, but how were they out?
How were they out, and how were they allowed to have their children living with them? It is horrifying. It is insane. Both of them are sex offenders. I mean,
this is insane. I'm so sorry, Tosh, that you ever went through anything like that. And I am so sorry. I don't even know what to say to that. I am so sorry, but I'm glad you're okay. Jesus. This is horrible.
DeHart can call himself whatever he wants, a poet, a police officer, but he's going to be known in his own history as a pedophilic sex offender. So, that's who he is, and that is who his wife is as well, or Sarah Miller, who I thought there was also some talk about her being his stepdaughter at some point. There is something very, very wrong going on in that home.
So that goes back to what Roxanne said about it being generational. Yeah, I don't know. I guess because nobody talked about it. Did they say they were out of jail? I'm trying to, I had to step away for a minute. I hope not. Jesus. Toxic, this is horrible. So I'm just warning you. Colleen said, do you ever wonder if this kind of thing happened years ago, like 100 or 200 or 500 years ago? It seems like we hear of it so much and way too much these days. Yeah, I definitely think it happened way back in the day. I think it might have been worse because people lived so remotely and there wasn't a lot of people around, unfortunately. Mallory said, not only out of jail, but how were the kids allowed to be with them? What the fuck? That's insane. Yeah, with the previous sex crime charges, I don't understand.
And I don't know how they were out to be able to commit this
legally speaking. Why? I don't get it. Why was the punishment right for those crimes? Was it sufficient? Was there nothing more that could have been done? Sometimes that's the way it works, but it just seems to me that I don't know how children were left in their care, how they were able to not be monitored, how they were out to be free. Hindsight, I know, is 2020, but that, from a legal point of view, were what they were convicted of or what they pled guilty to, did that make sense?
This is a failure of the criminal justice system right here. This is just a complete failure. You have cases, I had, as a prosecutor, sex crimes prosecutor, you have different types of sex crimes cases. You just do. And some are more horrific than others. And you're right, there's no crystal ball necessarily, but there are features of certain defendants and certain cases that make you think and make you very concerned about the future. And yes, even after they were released from prison, both of them, they had to register as a sex offender. And in order to do that, there is a hearing. It's called a SORA hearing, Sex Offender Registry Act hearing, where a judge determines the level sex offender that they have to be. And that determines how long they have to register for. Oftentimes it's for the rest of your life, and what kind of supervision they will be exposed to. And so in my mind, these two individuals who already committed absolutely depraved acts should have been supervised. I don't know where Child Protective Services were with respect to these children who have now come out and said that they were abused. It is a complete embarrassment and failure of our system.
It is.
As I said, one of the worst cases we have ever covered here.
At the cost of 2 children. Like, how are they even going to begin to recover from this?
On Sidebar, Serena Townsend, really thank you for coming on. I know this is not easy to talk about. I think I'm just angry. I think that's the best way to explain. I'm just really angry, but appreciate you breaking it down for us, coming on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that is all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube.
Let's see if we've got one that's not as bad. I saw one about that was just released 6 days ago. I don't know if I've got it in this playlist yet or not. Okay, we'll watch a funny one next. Saw one up here, I think. To kind of get we'll watch this one. When drunk mom faces off with Illinois cops. And it says, I'm an effing teacher. Lighten the mood a little bit.
It's embarrassing. I'm a teacher.
Oh, ma'am, you are embarrassing yourself right now. So a lot of I agree with you on that, Anders. Bad Girl said, save our children from these monsters. Absolutely. Absolutely. What about the one that just arrested in the month of the kids in the apartment for 5 years? That's what I was looking for. We'll watch this and then I'll do that short video about the kids who were like in the nasty ass apartment, and I'll probably go for the day because my throat's still sore and I didn't plan on being on very long today. $250 million bond. Annette Muniz. Oh, Annette said, asking about that. She's on a $250 million bond. That's interesting. All right. So this is going to be a body cam footage. And it's definitely more lighthearted than what we just watched.
It's embarrassing. I'm a teacher.
No one's going to see you.
I'll run a whole fight. No, I'm seriously, like, you're like a junior cop, like, asking me to do this. Like, come on.
I hope you guys are okay arresting the teachers of the Youth America.
Let's talk to your supervisor.
I will once we get this done. Yep.
It is a cold January evening in Lake Forest, Illinois, where one suspected drunk driver is about to learn a valuable lesson.
Hello. Hi, Officer Cordova, Lake Forest Police Department. Is everything okay?
Yeah, I'm actually concerned you pulled me over because I'm doing the speed limit.
Okay. So the reason I stopped you, you almost went through that red light at Deer Path and Golf. And then while I was following you, your driver's side tires crossed over the solid yellow line in the middle there. That splits the lane. Can I have a driver's license and insurance, please?
Absolutely.
Is everything okay today?
Yes.
Okay. Why is that? Okay. Well, I'm not pulling you over for speed.
You have my license. I'm getting my insurance. Can you give me a minute?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
I'm not rushing you. Where are you coming from today?
My son's basketball team.
Where is that at? That's where you're coming from? Okay. Have you been drinking today? Okay.
Please. Take my license. I'm not speeding. You know I'm not.
Well, I'm not stopping you for speed.
I did that. There's no reason to.
Well, I told you the reason why I stopped you. Can I have it? Thank you. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. What was that?
You have my insurance.
Yeah. I am looking at it right now. Is everything okay?
Yes, you know that. You have my card. You have my insurance.
Well, why are you?
Why is she already crying? Like, this is okay. Okay, ma'am.
I'm just looking at your insurance. Why are you yelling at me?
You are a police officer. Pull me up to look into my face and tell me you're not like trying to get in my face. Like, you have my stuff. Thank you.
Police identify the suspect as 46-year-old Becky Miranda, a second-grade teacher who may have miscalculated how many drinks she could have before driving. Moments later, another officer arrives. We get a better look at the suspect.
I'm not going to do this on this road.
Okay, so
This
you will
is
submit to
inappropriate.
standardized to some testing if we move to the next road.
Absolutely.
Okay,
I'm not
so
doing this on this road. This
I'll
is
work with you,
inappropriate.
Becky. Listen to me. I'll work with you, but we can't let you drive your car to that road then. Or would you prefer we could do this at the station? That way no one
No,
feels.
seriously. Please. This is inappropriate. You shouldn't have pulled me over. I was driving the speed limit.
Okay, Becky,
Like, this is inappropriate.
I don't know how many times I have to repeat myself. You weren't pulled over for speeding. You were pulled over for a lane violation.
Ma'am, the cops can pull you over. Oh my God. Like, all you got to do is comply and you'll be all right. Lord have mercy.
Where you went over the double solid yellow lines, okay? Almost going into oncoming traffic. That's why this officer pulled you over.
Becky, can you do me a favor and step out so we can do this out here?
No,
So we have the lane blocked off.
The sooner we get this done,
on this lane.
It's on the side of the road, not to get hit. Is there a reason why you don't want to do it here?
Yes, it's embarrassing. I'm a teacher.
No one's going to see you.
Doing that. Becky,
no one's watching.
am I going into your car?
No, you're going to step out
no,
here.
my car is going to block the view of you even
I'm
doing.
not. Tell me what you want me to do.
Well, I would like for you to step out the car. We're going to be behind your car. I have my car blocking our view. No one can see. No one's going to be able to see. And I want to check your eyes and just put you through
Please.
2 other fields after that.
Please. I can't do this. I'm a teacher in the community. Can you put me someplace else?
Becky.
I can't do this.
Okay, would you like to come to the station then?
No, I'm not going to the station.
All right, so this is your only option.
This woman is so entitled. Jesus. Yep, she's getting no passes. Lord have mercy. Hey, Bazard. I hope you're having a good Friday. Lord have mercy. Yeah, no one's watching except all of us on YouTube.
The option is to do this here.
Yep, Rachel.
So please step out of the car so you can do this.
Becky eventually agrees to take some field sobriety tests. Let's see how that goes.
Not good.
All right, I'll have you step. Where are you going? I'll have you step right here. Step right here. Facing me.
I'm a teacher.
I understand that.
You can't
But listen,
do this to me.
I see you have glossy eyes.
No, I'm not.
Okay, Becky. Listen, the sooner we put you through these
Can you stand right here
we
and face me? You can just face me. Look, it's away from the traffic, okay? No one can see you, okay? All right, so be honest with you, how many drinks do you have tonight?
No, like what?
One? What is it, like martini? Is it a beer?
One wine.
Glass of wine? Okay. Well, thanks for being honest with me, okay?
Becky admits to having, quote, one wine.
Sarah Boone 2.0, y'all. Sarah Boone 2.0. Yeah. I'm seeing what y'all are saying. Mallory said she's only no one's watching except all of us. Rachel said, wow, she's worried about somebody seeing her. It is wild. Dainty Dane said cops give people way too many chances, in my opinion. And I've been arrested 3 times. I've been arrested quite a few times. But I mean, again, even when I was arrested, like I complied. Like I would run, and they would say stop, or we're gonna tase you. But let me tell you what, my little white butt dropped right then. I dropped my ass right then. I said, my hands are up. Don't tase me every single time. But I'll tell y'all about my past one day. Roxanne said the driver is only showing the officers there is something going on here. Yep. Yeah. She seems innocent, but not. Hey, Voices, good to see you. Policy violations. Lord have mercy.
But for her students' sake, let's hope she's not a math teacher.
Yeah, we'll do a step on this line here. You step to your right.
This is embarrassing.
No one's going to see you. Can you please step on that line, please?
Are we back? Let me know when y'all can hear me. I'll change it. Are y'all here? Let me know when y'all are here. Can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me? Let me know when y'all can hear me. I'm going to try to fix it. No? Okay. Hold on. You see my words? Okay. Lord Jesus. Oh, it's back? Okay, y'all can hear me? Okay, all right. Well, thank goodness. I'll try something else. They didn't like that. Evidently, Sarah Boone 2.0 said, "Not today, Satan." Lord have mercy. All right, good. Let me pull up that one that y'all were just talking about. I've only got a 6-minute video on it, but lordy. Lordy. Hold on just a minute. Because I was watching that earlier, the one that y'all were talking about. Well, where is it? I don't see it. Okay, let's see. I think I saved it in today, maybe. Trying to figure out what playlist I put it in. The one that y'all were talking about. So if you're watching this on replay, they cut out a part of the stream. I thought I was going to have to end the live. Because they like banned me. They said, "Not today. Not today." Yeah, this is the one. I think this is the one y'all were talking about. Hold on just a minute. All right. See, I don't do videos like this very often because they'll do that to me. They'll suspend it. And
Hotline on a horrifying discovery in Michigan. Officers finding
they'll suspend my stream in the middle of it and I'll lose y'all. And so that's why I don't do these very often. But I've been working. I'm actually working right now on trying to get this daggum video out about the motions that could change the whole entire CSAM trial. And I didn't have time to really gather stuff together. Now my computer's going to act crazy. All right. Stop being crazy. Hold on, it froze. Yeah. No, Toxic, you're not muted that I know of. Yeah, I'm probably not going to drop the link because of the possibility of getting, like, it's just a kind of free for all today because I'm just going through videos and there's a possibility that they might try to pull that mess again. Let me try loading this again. Toxic, I don't think you've been muted. All right. Try this again.
Putting the spotlight on a horrifying discovery in Michigan. Officers finding.
I have something on Diddy too. Maybe we can try that. If I disappear, if you wait, I'll come back. Okay? All right.
So this morning, we're turning the spotlight on a horrifying discovery in Michigan. Officers finding 3 siblings living alone in deplorable conditions. And now their mother's waking up behind bars. This is what it looked like inside. And my friends, we even had to blur some of these images because it's just too disgusting. This home was filled with garbage and human waste, and the 2 girls and 1 boy, ages 15, 13, and 12, had been living like this for years.
Jesus.
Neighbors are stunned.
Everybody's upset about it. Like, oh my God, this is right in our neighborhood. How could something like this happen?
My goodness. Now, this 34-year-old mother was living someplace else.
Did y'all see the toilet? Like, they blurred the toilet. This is horrific. Like, I don't even understand how you could even fathom living in that, much less making your child live in it. Like, what the hell are you doing? Toxic said fecal matter everywhere. Yes, y'all. Colleen said, just don't like this reporter. She lies about a lot of things. So take what she says with a grain of salt. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know, or letting us know, Colleen.
Apparently, and somebody would drop off prepared meals for the teenagers. Lately, it was just a loaf of bread. Officers were called when the landlord said that he hadn't heard from his tenant since December, and she hadn't paid her rent since October. You know, how could nobody know this was happening in this house? Let's talk about that. I want to bring in our guest. I want to welcome in the studio with me retired supervisor with the Department of Homeland Security. He's also a firearms expert and an author as well, Dr. Jason Piccolo. And of course, attorney Casey Early is standing by with us remotely to dig into this case. Dr. Jason, you know, you've come upon many scenes in your career. How do you think nobody knew about this?
You know, the thing is, they were sheltered. They were in place, and they were so scared to leave. Listen, when you live in your neighborhood, do you really look around at your neighbors? Do you see them that much? You know, my last neighborhood I lived in, I hardly ever saw my neighbor. So who's going to report it? And if they did see something, who do they report it to? So yes, they were sheltered and too scared to leave. So it's just a horrible situation. Absolutely horrible.
I mean, you got a point. Like, you're not going to go to your neighbor's house and, you know, people that are quiet. I'm sure you can think of people that, like, you know, or that are neighbors of yours that, like, they just don't come out much. You don't talk to them very often. Maybe you've got a neighbor you don't even know who lives there because they just are quiet or they don't talk much or whatever. So, I mean, it's definitely possible. You would just think that if somebody's old enough to have children, they're old enough to take care of them and make sure that they have a clean environment to live in. Lord have mercy. Excuse me. Roxanne said, my mother trained me well on how to run the house while my parents were working and off. I had to access our local grocery store and we had a charge account. If I had left the house dirty, oh no. Yep. Bazard said, saw the uncensored version of this case on Live Now, and it's haunting to say the least. Definitely one of the worst child neglects that I've seen in the last few years. Said Live Now. I'll have to see if I can pull the unredacted. Toxic said, how did the school fail to ask about these kids? And that's a good question. If she was quote unquote homeschooling them, then, you know, she's pulled them out because they're being homeschooled and they assume that the children are being homeschooled and nobody ever checks. And that's one thing, you know, cases like this irritate me because there's people out here that are legitimate homeschoolers like what we do. And then you got these that are giving us all a bad name. Because part of, like, the reason you homeschool is because, you know, you don't want the public school system or the government necessarily stepping in and telling you how to do things. And of course, you know, you have to be registered. You have to, there's tests that they take at the end of the year, like an EOG and things like that. But other than that, you know, you're pretty much left alone. And if the government's not checking to make sure all of her records are up to date or whatever, then it can definitely happen. Hey, Hio. Abellis said, my neighbors are awesome. We have a nice neighborhood. We text to make sure we're okay. That's really sweet. Everybody that lives here where I live at in this small little community that my landlord owns, it's like several different houses or whatever. We always text each other to make sure we're okay. Like we look out for each other. There is 4 households here and we look out for each other. It's pretty cool. The children were fed by everyone. All right.
It really is. Casey, you know, we talk all the time, not only are you such an outstanding lawyer, you're an outstanding mom too. And a lot of times, you know, your experience as a mother will inform things you think about in the courtroom and themes in trials. What do you think about this when you hear about the mom waking up behind bars and nobody knew what was happening in her home?
As she should, Julie, my heart breaks. I'll be quite honest, because I'm taking it from a perspective as a mother. Being a mother of 4 children, when I read this story, I could not understand how is it that you can abandon your children. I've heard of the 3 to 4 day drug binges, but 3 to 4 years. I would say the system did fail the children, and here's why. I know that they were abandoned around COVID. So even if they were online schooling, is there not a system in place to see that these children have not been in school? And then thank goodness she stopped paying her rent, because who knows how long this could have gone. I really thank goodness for the landlord as well, because he is the one that called for the welfare check. But the weekly drop off.
Here, you're good. Hey, Cara. You're good, sweetheart. You got a life too. You do what you need to do, baby. I hope your grandma's okay. Hope everything's going good. So yeah, we need to pull the docs on this. If I get them, I'll send them over to you. So you can watermark it. I'll work on trying to pull the documents on this so I can put them on my Patreon, and then I'll send them to you, and you can watermark them and put them on As the Gavel Drops Discord and YouTube channel. Yeah, I got booted because I'm playing videos. You know, I usually don't play the videos that I usually don't play other people's videos or whatever, and I did it today. Like with the Eileen Warno stuff when we did that and got booted, and the West Memphis 3 and got booted. It did the same thing. But I thought I was going to have to go for the day. I thought I got in trouble, but I was able to come back. Tosh, so they were evidently somebody was dropping off prepared food for them, but then they stopped. I'm wondering if it's the mother. But I mean, again, how do you just walk out on your kids like that? Jesus. I wonder how old they were. Oh, Toxic, I'm going to try. I'm going to do my best. I need to write down, I'm going to pull everything I can on it. Instacart, yeah.
Off of food. The house was filthy as expected because they were children. The human waste, the mold, the garbage was reported to be as high as 4 feet. My heart breaks for these children. And this is why, side note, that we have to pray even when we don't know who the victims are. And not only does she need severe punishment, but obviously she needs counseling. And I'll say this last thing, the family. The children are now with relatives. So you mean to tell me the same relative that these children are with did not check on these children between the 3 to 4 years that there was weekly drop-offs? And whoever dropped off that food, they too should be punished, because I'm pretty sure that there were smells and they saw and witnessed what these children were experiencing. So I'm just heartbroken by this. And I pray that our children are saved.
There ain't no way that they had like the front foyer area clean when whoever was coming to drop the food off. Like, you know damn well if there's 4 feet of garbage in that house, it could have been seen by the person dropping the food off. Like, don't even try to play me. Bazard said, being a bit real, but in large parts of America, many citizens are afraid to get involved with their neighbors' affairs. The classic not my business mindset, or issues between neighbors. Yep. Toxic said, I heard one child escaped and is living with their biological dad, 2 separate dads. Lord have mercy. Natasha said, I believe 13, 11, and 8. So what? It would have been 4, 7, and 9. 4, 7, and 9 when they were left? Are you freaking serious? Sorry it took me so long, y'all. My brain's not working today. Natasha said they were left in this environment for years. No functioning toilet. Toenails so long because they couldn't even walk properly. Using the shower as a toilet. It's maddening. Oh my God. And the same relatives that they're with now didn't reach out to check. Lord have mercy. Hold on. Hold on.
Oh, I love everything you said, Casey. Thank you for all of that. And yeah, thinking about it, the last point you just made about how people who, the DoorDash delivery person, whoever it is dropping off something, you know, you might think, oh gosh, do I see something that looks, you know, I think we're in a day and age where everybody just wants to head down, mind their business, you know, where we need, do we not, Jason Piccolo, more people making a complaint. That's how oftentimes officers get the complaints about all the animals that have overrun a house, right? Somebody sees something when a neighbor opens a door. In fact, I got a clip from the sheriff. Let's take a look at his reaction.
It kind of reminds me of the commercials you see where animals are living in very deplorable conditions. Well, kind of take that times 10. And that's what the kids were living in for years.
Lord.
Yeah, Jason, if law enforcement doesn't have people willing to speak up and say something doesn't seem right, and how can anything get done?
We need a robust PR campaign for the police. And even if it's not just the police, the social work, the people will need to know that they can step up, they can see something, say something, and then report it and not be in fear themselves. A lot of times people are afraid to go to the police with anything they have going on, so they don't want to rely on them. So have anonymous reporting, have some sort of system in place so they can do their investigation.
Right. This was just, it's hard to, it's unspeakable, yet it happened. Yeah, this was going on. I mean, look at this. I mean, the girls were sleeping on pizza boxes. The boy slept on a mattress.
Girls were sleeping on pizza boxes. Boys slept on a mattress. It reads garbage piled as high as 4 feet, mold and human waste throughout. Girls were found in the bathroom. The boy told the deputies their mother abandoned them in 2020 or 2021. Toxic said, 13-year-old girl, no sanitary supplies. I just can't imagine. Lord have mercy. Bazard says, started in 2020. So yeah, they're in their teens now, shaking my head. Natasha said, total squalor, Abellas, breaks my heart. The littles in my care came from a very awful environment, but this is another level, breaks my heart. I'm glad you're able to be there for the ones that you're caring for. And it does. This is awful. It breaks my heart too.
The boy told deputies mom abandoned them in 2020 or 2021. They weren't going to school. That was a question I had. Casey, apparently they found no one had gone to school. So for years, they're not going to school. The girls hadn't been outside in years. The boy went outside twice just to feel the grass, check the mail. I mean, and it's like them needing a parent too to guide them. As I was seeing these things, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you realize just how dependent children are on mom and dad.
Indeed, Julie. I mean, we are nurturers.
No, what I played earlier was like way worse than this. Like there was a case I played earlier that was just absolutely horrifying.
Guide, advise, love, care for our children, and they didn't have it. So they didn't know the difference between right and wrong. They didn't know that they had to clean up because they didn't have that guidance. They didn't have that love. And I know they're going to need counseling for trauma. They're going to need, just that education. I mean, they pass time by playing games and just sleeping. This is not how children are supposed to live. Their innocence was stripped from them, and their mother and father, absentee father, is to blame for the situation.
So true. A great analysis from you both. Oh, this is one we are going to watch this case. Everybody's talking about it. We're going to watch when mom goes to court and see what happens.
That's just absolutely nuts. Excuse me. My goodness. Okay, I'm going to go back to the playlist we were at. I got a couple of short videos. We'll play those, and then I'll try to play another longer one. Hopefully, y'all won't lose me. If you lose me, I will be back. Let me get to my playlist. They won't put her in protective custody for that, but like we were talking about on Hio's stream where the girl came out that had been a bunkie knew Sarah Boone, she can go in, and unless the COs read her charges, she's gonna be able to say whatever she wants to say as far as why she's there. I am looking. There it is. My misspelled possible live streams. Saw something late one night and was like, oh, Mike could do a live stream on that. And so I made a playlist for days like where we just don't really have a lot to talk about. and figured that we could talk about him. I wish it would show me the whole playlist. Like, I'd like to scroll down. Oh my goodness. I had to do it like this. We got this one. Georgia mom killed baby with a blow dryer, the indictment. This is going to be hard.
A Georgia mom is charged with second-degree murder.
Hold on.
After her 8-month-old son died from burns caused by a...
Oh my God. How, I mean, to actually die from burns? Jesus. Goodness. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Okay. Let me try this again. I don't know how bad it's got to be for somebody to actually die of burns. You know what I mean?
Second-degree murder after her 8-month-old son died from burns caused by a hairdryer. That's what authorities are alleging right now. And they say this was no accident. We have got the full incident report, and it is worse than you think. We're going to break it all down right now with former Palm Beach County State Attorney Dave Aronberg. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
What? I don't even understand how you could use a blow dryer on I think they said an 8-month-old son. Like, what the hell would possess you to even get close to that child with a damn blow dryer? This one's mind-blowing too. Apparently she was strung out. Well, that makes it make a little bit more sense, but damn.
So I'm not going to lie to you. This is pretty much the stuff nightmares are made of. You got a Georgia mom who has been charged with second-degree murder after what authorities are calling just a horrific act of neglect that led to the death of her 8-month-old son. Investigators say this baby died with burns caused by a hairdryer. Let me explain what we're talking about here. We have obtained the full incident report, so we're going to break down the exact details.
I'm going to write down this name too so I can pull this. If you don't have it, Toxic, I'll pull this for you. Or for us. I'll put it on my Patreon and then give it to you. Let me grab my pen. It said neglect, so I'm assuming that she left the blow dryer on by the baby. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking.
But according to the report, on November 9th, 2023, Morgan Creel called 911, hysterical, telling authorities her infant son, Carson, was unresponsive. When officers arrived, they found Creel standing at the back door of the home. She told them that her son was in the back bedroom, and what they discovered inside was devastating. Carson was found lying on the floor with his onesie partially pulled down, and as the officer began CPR, and as the report states, quote, Carson appeared severely burnt as well as discolored on the right side of his body.
Oh,
now, despite the officer's attempts to save him, this little boy was pronounced dead at the scene. When authorities asked...
Oh, my God. So it looks like Allie Creel is the name. How do you just... I mean, the baby would be crying or something, I would think. You have the case file already? Okay. If you got, I think she's saying she has the case file for this. So if you guys are interested in that, definitely visit As the Gavel Drops Discord. I can't drop the link because I'm trying to upload this video that I've been trying to upload for 2 days. It doesn't want to work with me because it's like a 2.5-hour video going over the documents that could cancel out the dang CSAM trial. So I'm trying to upload that and I can't do anything with my phone.
Asked Morgan what happened, she reportedly told them this. This is the report. She attempted to warm the child's feet by turning on the hairdryer. Units advised that Morgan stated she fell asleep and woke up to the juvenile unresponsive, causing her to contact emergency services. Now, while securing the scene, according to the incident report, quote, the responding officer observed a marijuana smoking apparatus outside on the back porch. So that's another factor we got to consider here, because
I mean, ain't nobody smoking pot and doing anything like that to their child. Like, stop it.
Creel was reportedly arrested the next day on a charge of cruelty to children in the second degree. She was later released on bond. Here's the thing about this. Authorities don't believe that Creel was just innocently taking a nap. No, rather, they believe that she was under the influence of drugs. Now what has happened? A grand jury has just indicted her. This happened on January 16th, just last month, on the cruelty to children charge, but also the bombshell second-degree murder charge. She was booked into jail on January 24th, but our understanding is, based on looking at the court records, she is not an inmate there, so it's possible she may have been released on bond, according.
Cara said, I can tell you that when I'm smoking my medicine, all I'm doing is eating and giggling. Right. Like, I don't think this was just marijuana.
To the indictment that was reviewed by Fox 5, the grand jury believed that Creel wasn't just negligent, but was actually passed out from drugs when she left the blow dryer on near her child. And a snippet from that indictment reads, quote, did cause cruel and excessive physical and mental pain by leaving a blow dryer on and blowing heated air near said child while said accused was passed out and under the influence of a controlled substance. Hey, by the way, guys, you got to hear this. So recent allegations against the multi-billion-dollar video game industry claim that video games are engineered for addiction. Yeah, the claims try to make sense of the...
Well, of course they are. I'm going to skip past this. Morgan and Morgan. Oh my gosh, you can call Morgan and Morgan if you got addicted to a video game, y'all. Just so you know. Hey, Orange Rose. It's good to see you, love. You're not late. You got here right when you were supposed to be here. But I do want to give you a trigger warning. Unless she was on Delta 9, said Cara. I tell everyone to avoid Delta 9. That's not legit Mary Jane. Yeah, it's not. Don't use synthetic marijuana, please do not. I never tried it, but one of my exes did, and he said he saw everybody as like Legos. He said everybody looked like Legos, like and Legos building a, I don't know, it's weird.
It's far from over in a minute, but first I want to bring on a special guest, friend of the show in person, Dave Arenberg, the former Palm Beach County State Attorney. Thank you so much for coming on, Dave. It's always good to see you. Appreciate you taking the time.
Jesse, great to be back with you.
Generally speaking, at your time in the State Attorney's office, did you see a lot of child abuse cases? What was it like investigating and prosecuting those specific instances?
We've seen some horrific cases. We had one where the child was starved to death, and it was almost impossible to look at the photo of the child, the skeletal remains. In fact, we were so outraged, we sought the death penalty. And these cases are really hard, though, because in many times you have a defendant who is sympathetic, like a mother who takes a stand and says she's lost everything. She's already been punished enough by losing her child. And then she has this plausible explanation that she was just trying to warm up the child and fell asleep, although there were obviously drugs in her system. She was lying, but sometimes you get a jury where all it takes is one person to find sympathy for the parent, and then that's a hung jury.
See, I think about these cases, why they're particularly difficult for me to cover is obviously the innocence, but you were dealing with a victim. There's no self-defense argument, right? You were dealing with a defenseless victim. You were dealing with somebody who can't care for themselves. It's different than if you have like a murder case or self-defense case or, you know.
Abella said studies just came out that video game makers knowingly made their games addictive, and that's what that's about. They rewarded every click. Oh, okay. I mean, you know, just like I tell y'all, I had there's a field beside me where they rent out the field for farmers to grow crops, right? And during the summer, they grew tobacco. And after they went through and got all the tobacco, like they go through with machines and get all the tobacco leaves they can with the machines. And then there's stuff left. And in the Bible, people would go through, and I think it's called gleaning. You hear the story, I think it was Ruth or Elizabeth or one of them was gleaning the field when she found a rich person or whatever. She was gleaning his field. Anyway, I walk through the field all the time, and after the trucks went through and did their thing, there was tobacco leaves on the ground, and you have to like hang dry them a certain way and all of that. Anyway, I've got actual tobacco from the field, and it's so much different to smoke that than like a cigarette, because they add a bunch of chemicals to the cigarette to make them more addictive. So that, I mean, they're doing it with everything. They make TV addictive. The way the lights and the way the lights from a TV or a computer or a phone or an iPad interact with your brain waves and thought processes, it makes it addictive. Like it's insane. They make everything more addictive. Toxic, unfortunately I can't right now because my phone's exporting this video and it's like gonna take a really long time. I probably won't be able to check my DMs for like an hour at least. I apologize. If you tell Hio though, she might if it's something important, she can come up or something, or let me know in back chat or something.
You know, there's explanations about what the victim did or did not do. When you're dealing with children, it seems to me, and you would know better, is the prosecution success rate much stronger when it comes to child victims? Is it like either you see plea deals or you see convictions in the 90% range?
You know, I don't think that the conviction rate differs that much because you have to look at the facts on a case by case.
Cajun Juju, I am so sorry. I thought you were talking about tobacco leaves. I am so sorry that happened to you.
Basis. Remember the boy in the box case? There was a case we had in my office where parents punished their child by making him live in this box. And people on the internet were outraged. And the jury found the father guilty, but then the judge gave him only 5 years in prison. So sometimes how the public feels about a case doesn't get reflected in how the judge or the jury reacts, because it just depends on the individual before them. They take the stand and they say, we tried everything. You know, in a case of intentional misconduct, yes, you'll get a higher percentage of convictions. But then you have cases like this where there's no intent here. It's just someone who acted so recklessly it led to a death.
Let's talk about that. So the second-degree murder charge, that's really the big one we're looking at here. And in Georgia, I looked it up. It's defined as a person commits the offense of murder in the second degree when in the commission of cruelty to children in the second degree, he or she causes the death of another human being irrespective of malice. So it's almost like felony murder, right? Someone dies during the commission of a felony. She didn't have to intend to kill her child. Do you think that definition of second degree murder, if that's how it's prosecuted, does it fit here?
Yeah, in fact, Cole Gray, remember that case in Georgia, same state, where Georgia has a unique statute on the books where the father of a school shooter was charged with second-degree murder. How?
We covered that case way back in the beginning when I first started live streaming.
Well, when you have the charge of child neglect, you put children at risk, then a death occurs. That's how you get to second-degree murder in Georgia. It's unique in that way because normally we're used to second-degree murder as an intentional homicide. Here, it doesn't have to be intentional.
So let me pull up the cruelty to children charge, which is, I guess, that underlying charge. And she's also charged with this as well. Any person commits the offense of cruelty to children in the second degree when such person with criminal negligence causes a child under the age of 18 cruel or excessive physical or mental pain. So I guess the idea is she would say, I wasn't acting negligently. This was an accident.
She's going to use her drugs to say that she didn't have the right mindset to put someone at risk. She was just using a drug. She was trying to heat the child, and then she fell asleep. So even though you don't need to intentionally try to kill the child, she'll try to say, I didn't do something that was inherently that risky because I was using a hairdryer and things happen. Now,
Well, I guess the question would be, I read this. I said, how does somebody die from wounds inflicted by a hairdryer?
That's it.
That she would say, I didn't think the child was going to die.
That's it. It's different than the normal case where you have a gun left on a table and then a child uses it, takes a gun and shoots himself and dies. That's the typical situation for this statute. It's tougher when it's a hairdryer. Now, if you're going to use drugs, I would say as a prosecutor, you are now assuming the risk. You are putting yourself and the child in a very dangerous situation when you're doing anything under the influence of drugs. And then even if it's a hairdryer and the baby dies, that's on you. You own it. So I think that's the argument in front of the jury.
No, I get it. I get it. This child died. This was her fault, whether it's criminal liability, moral liability. It was her fault. It was what she did caused the death of this child. I mean, allegedly, right? But you have to say that. I think that's pretty clear. Whether or not it rises to the level of murder.
I am so sorry, Cajun Juju, and I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you're still here with us. And we love you very much. And if you ever need to talk, you can feel free to email me.
Or cruelty to children, that will have to be seen. I do think it's interesting, the idea of using the blow dryer to warm up the child, because according to reporting from Fox 5, the temperature on that day was approximately 68 degrees. What does that tell you?
Well, it tells you that she didn't need to use the blow dryer. It wasn't that cold. This wasn't like a blizzard where she was really trying to help the baby's condition, help the baby sleep, keep the baby warm. This sounds like someone who's addled by drugs who created this dangerous situation when she didn't have to. And the fact that she lied, that she told police she just fell asleep when the police afterwards found out, no, you were on something. I think that's going to hurt her.
Did she know? I mean, did she know that maybe she just fell asleep? Maybe she didn't think about the effects of the marijuana, assuming that's what was in her system. We've seen cases before where the effect of drugs can actually be a mitigating factor. There was a woman who stabbed another young man to death, and because of the influence of drugs, the effect it had on her, she had a lenient penalty for that.
The effect of drugs will mitigate the intent portion because you didn't intend to do it. You were on drugs. On the other hand, you can't voluntarily take drugs and then say, I get a get out of jail free card, right? It's still a lesser offense of a manslaughter. But in Georgia, that lesser offense is the second-degree murder because they say if you create a dangerous situation for a child and someone dies, you don't have to have intent. That's second-degree murder. You get up to 10 to 13 years in prison.
Why did it take so long for her to be indicted? So if this happened in 2023 and then she was indicted just in 2025, why take so long?
I was asking the same question. I don't know. I guess they were still.
Yo, I love the outpouring of love I see for Cajun Juju, and y'all are just so sweet. I love our Speculating family. Y'all are amazing. That's so sweet of you guys.
Investigating the case, but they had that drug information, that toxicology report, I'm sure a while ago, because you have to take the toxicology test early on or else the drugs dissipate in your system.
So again, we're assuming, by the way, that there was, drugs in her system. The fact that she called 911 to help, does that help her case?
It does, because there are going to be a lot of parents on that jury, and they're going to put themselves in her shoes. And they're going to say, if I was the mother there, I would call 911. I would be in hysterics. She was, and she did. And so that will help her. That's why if she takes a stand, it's not a slam dunk for prosecutors because she could get the sympathy of the jury. And here she is, this seemingly uneducated simpleton with the big glasses who's just, addicted to drugs or using marijuana and was in over her head. Still a crime, but maybe not murder.
Why did they charge her with murder as opposed to manslaughter? Is that unusual that she was charged with murder here?
She would be charged with manslaughter in other states, but Georgia has a unique statute that brings us under the murder statute. It actually reads really well for this case. I think that it is murder in Georgia. It would be manslaughter elsewhere.
Would she try to fight the cause of death and saying it wasn't due to her actions and have an expert talk about the effects of a blow dryer or not? And I don't know if that would be effective because how else did this child die?
Yeah, unless there was another medical condition here that we don't know of. It's going to be very hard for her to say that a baby that showed these visible wounds from the hairdryer did not die from the hairdryer. She's going to have to come up with another explanation. And if she tries to make this a battle of experts, they got to bring someone who knows what they're talking about, or else it's going to backfire against them.
I wanted to ask you, you brought this up before, there's more to this story. So it turns out that this wasn't the first time that Morgan Creel had found herself in legal trouble, because I want to rewind to October of last.
Do y'all think that the effects of marijuana would do this? Like, I think it was the effects of something else, personally.
Last year, 2024, so almost a full year after the death of her son. And at this point, Creel was out on bond for the cruelty to children charge. But on October 28th, she was arrested again, this time for driving under the influence after being spotted swerving through traffic. Now, according to the incident report that was obtained by Law and Crime, when Creel was pulled over, that is when things quickly took a turn for the worse. So the officer noticed her behavior right away, noting that she, quote, had slurred speech, that she was standing there stumbling while speaking with her. The responding officer observed that she had slurred speech, droopy eyelids, bloodshot and watery eyes, and she cleared her throat while speaking. Now, Fox 5 Atlanta reported that Creel tried to explain herself, telling the officer that she was just sneezing. That's why she lost control of the car. And when the officer asked if he could conduct some field sobriety tests, she agreed, but unfortunately, she utterly failed all of them, or I should say, unfortunately for her. According to the incident report.
So she'd already been in trouble with a child, with endangering a child. That's not going to be good for her in court. Some of y'all are saying, Bazard said lace weed can definitely cause some wacky acts that can be criminal. Cara said, a lot of the synthetic Mary Jane on the streets can be laced. My former roommates was laced with PCP. Oh, no. That's horrible. Colleen said, I do have a channel with very few short videos. Oh, I'll have to share you out. I've been around a lot of different people people on Mary Jane, and they've never done anything crazy. I've never seen anybody do anything like this on Mary Jane either. Like, I don't think so. Personally.
Report. During the test movement test, Creel displayed clear signs of intoxication, struggling to keep her head still. On this walk and turn test, she swayed, had trouble finding her balance. The finger to nose test, she was confused, couldn't understand the instructions. The report also notes that several of the tests actually had to be stopped because Creel was such a risk to herself. Now, ultimately, she was arrested for driving under the influence. Actually, I'll tell you what, we have this newly released body cam footage that was obtained by Law and Crime, actually shows this interaction play out. Let's take a look.
Deputy Thompson, Kelly County Sheriff's Office. So, why were you swerving back there real bad?
Started sneezing real bad.
You what? Started sneezing real bad?
So I'm trying to get back to where I need to be.
All right.
I can't do this anymore because I don't care. But
she looked real bad messed up.
It
gets too dangerous. I don't know what to do it, so I'm gonna be careful. All right, so you are being placed under arrest for driving under the influence, okay?
Is there a purse or a phone in there? Yeah.
Okay, so you want to bring that?
So, Dave, I have made of questions here. First of all, were you surprised that she made bond? She wasn't initially, charged or indicted with cruelty to children, but for the fact that she was arrested, she was on bond, then she was out driving. For what she was arrested for initially with respect to her child, typical should be out on bond?
Yeah, she's not a flight risk. She's not a danger to society. And
so was she out on bond when that happened? I'm wondering. I'm going to play that again because I think he just said she was out on bond when she was driving. Hold on. Let me play this again. This was October 28th of 2024.
Is there a purse or a phone in there? Yeah.
Okay. So you want to bring that?
So, Dave, I have a maid of questions here. First of all, were you surprised that she made bond? She wasn't initially, charged or indicted with cruelty to children, but for the fact that she was arrested, she was on bond, then she was out driving for what?
Okay, so yeah, she got out on bond after killing her child and was out driving, and that's when she got in trouble that time. Obviously using again whatever it is that she's using, because she was real high. My goodness, this is crazy. Ma'am.
What she was arrested for initially with respect to her child, typical should be out on bond?
Yeah, she's not a flight risk. She's not a danger to society. And because of the fact she's a mother who didn't intentionally try to kill her child, that's why she got bond. Now, that video, I don't know if you've seen it, of her stumbling around on that roadside sobriety test is so bad. I've never seen a worse one. She can't even walk. If that gets in, that's going to really hurt her. I don't think it gets in, though, unless she opens the door to it. She may, if she takes a stand to explain her actions, she could then could backfire where that video comes in. So I think that she probably does not take the stand. And I think as long as they can keep that video out, she's got a fighting chance.
You don't think prosecutors would try to get it in to say, look at how she's behaving in the sense of she lost her son? Does she seem remorseful? Well, no, I guess not, because
it's a year later.
Well, no, it's a year later, but I'm wondering, so she's not in charge with intentionally killing her son and,
right,
where you see evidence after the fact, the person doesn't care, they're moving on.
So it's a year later. So she's still using whatever it is that she was using a year after the death of her child. Yeah, I'm with him. I'm agreeing with him. Look at the look on his face right now. Like, that's kind of where I'm at with this. Sorry. Bazard said, even I know if I drank going clubbing, I would just park my vehicle in a safe location and rest a bit. Right. Before driving back home. Right. Roxanne said, the way this woman's acting is not Mary Jane. Yep. Bad Girl said she had no business having custody of her son until she got help. Yeah. I mean, I think that she unalived the child first, but like, she shouldn't be out on bond. She definitely needs some help. Cajun Juju said, not a danger. What? Not a danger to society, but obviously one to her child. Yeah, I think she's definitely a danger to society.
On with their life, but if you're talking about somebody who was acting, recklessly or negligently and didn't properly show the proper care or attention to their child, this is it with the behavior she's engaging in afterwards. Doesn't that show this is a heartless mother? I mean, that's too much of a stretch, right?
I love it as a prosecutor. I say, yes,
but it's prejudicial. It's too prejudicial.
It's more prejudicial than probative. It's a DUI, which doesn't pertain to this case. It's a year later. The one thing that's interesting about is that she's also, again, a liar. She has a truth-telling problem. She lied to police the day of the death, the second-degree murder case, and then she lied to police here. She was sneezing. That's why she was weaving it out. I've never heard that before either. Then she gets out, she's stumbling all over herself. So clearly, it wasn't the allergies that did that.
Well, talk to me about, you said that she could open the door. If she takes the stand, what could she say that would open the door for this to come in?
I don't use drugs. I'm not under the influence of anything. Okay, well.
Gotcha. Okay. But could it be used? And
Bad Girl, I thought she got arrested beforehand too, and then after. But from what they're talking about or the way they made it seem, I think she got charged with what she did to her son, and then afterwards, about a year after, is when that video took place. I think, if I'm correct. Bazard said, here in Georgia, there are so many street drugs she could be on. Guess it depends on what authorities found in her blood or urine. Yeah. Oh, Hio said at 1 p.m. West Coast time today, there will be a DA update live in regards to the Menendez brothers. We'll definitely have to check that out. Or you guys can check it out, because I'm probably, after this, we're going to play 2 short clips, and that'll probably be it for me today.
The reason I'm only playing devil's advocate
like
and trying to talk
minutes.
about the defense is I think this is a really bad case for her.
Let me
I
know.
think there's a strong argument she will be convicted if this goes to trial. But having said
Drop the link. If we're still live in 15 minutes, I'll watch it.
that,
I'll play it.
does this help her defense in any way? State of mind, her personal struggles.
Okay.
She can't even keep it together. It's not her fault necessarily. It's not murder necessarily. It's not cruelty to children necessarily. Her personal struggles led to the death of her child.
Yeah. I do think that you will hear from her at the trial, even though she's unlikely to take the stand, and that is through the 911 call. And that's where her emotion will come out and will help her. That's where the defense will try to put the jurors in her shoes, saying she's a grieving mother. Don't compound the tragedy. She's already lost everything in her life.
No, I agree. I think that's very fair. I think people look at this and will probably say this shows a pattern of alleged reckless behavior, and it's really concerning. Do you think that this goes to trial, or do you think that they try to work out a deal?
Probably
deals are always on the table, and this could, they say, in the halls of justice. A lot of the justice is done in the halls, so this could settle. But in the end, it's up to the defendant whether she's going to accept responsibility for her actions and agree to jail time, prison time, because there's no way that the state is going to let this go without her serving real prison time. And that's really the difference maker in this.
Let's talk about that. If she's convicted on both the second-degree murder, I understand to be 10 to 30 years in prison.
Correct.
Cruelty to children carries up to 10 years in prison, if I'm right about that.
Yeah, as far as I know, yes.
Okay,
Correct.
so could she be looking at potentially 40 years in prison?
No, those are the maximums. That's someone with a lengthy track record. In this case, I think because of the circumstances, the fact she doesn't have a prior rap sheet except for the DUI, which then that's how it could be taken into consideration in sentencing.
Prior.
I think she'll get towards the lower end of the sentencing range. Plus,
they said she doesn't have a prior rap sheet except for the DUI, so that would make me think it maybe took place before the death of the child.
she'll be a sympathetic defendant here. It is
You
just
think
true.
so?
Well, when it compares to someone who intentionally tried to kill the
that's
child.
true.
Plus,
That's true.
also, she's a young woman, and I said it in pejorative terms, but she's going to say, Your Honor, I didn't know any better. I was just trying to warm my baby up, and I fell asleep, and yes, I was doing drugs, but that's what happened. And I think as a result, she'll get prison. She needs to get prison. You can't kill your baby and just walk free. In fact, in that video, it doesn't look that she was super affected by it. I know it's a year later.
That's what I was. That's the point I was trying to
Now
make.
they're
That's
saying
where you can
it's a
come
year
in maybe
later
in
again.
sentencing, but where they say, she showed no remorse. A year later, she's out there. Somehow she's out there driving intoxicated or on drugs. And you would think a person would be chastened. You think a person who ends up killing her daughter because she's on drugs would say, never again, I'm a new person. No, it doesn't seem to have changed much.
If she gets
Right.
whatever prison time she gets, if she's ultimately convicted, let's say 8 years, 10 years, I don't know what it would be, but is there early release? How does that work?
Georgia, like other states, offers some sort of early release. Like in Florida, we don't even offer parole anymore. We abolished our parole system, but you serve 85% of your sentence if you have good behavior. So Georgia has something similar. So yes, I do think that she will get towards the bottom of the sentencing maximum or minimum, where it's closer to 10 years than 30 years. And then within that, she'll get some time off for good behavior.
It is a really, really sad story. When I read it, I had to do a double take. I couldn't believe what I was reading. We'll continue to keep an eye on it, see how it progresses. It's one that really, unfortunately, stands out for all the wrong reasons. Dave Arenberg, good seeing you. Thanks so much for coming in.
Goodness.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Jesse.
All right, everybody.
What do you guys think? Do you think that the DUI afterwards is going to have a correlation on the trial of the child? The trial for the homicide of the child? The DUI a year later, I think it definitely shows that she was still using. And it should have a correlation to it, I think. Okay. Let's do this one real quick.
The story's breaking from overnight. We have disturbing new details.
So this is just a little 2-minute video we'll watch. Bellis said, I hope so. I would hope so. Tony said, I think it will. Bazard said, it might for this case of the death of her child. Yeah. Bad Girl said, yep, she didn't learn anything from the death of her child. I think it'll play a part in that case too.
The stories breaking from overnight. We have disturbing new details on a multi-state investigation involving what police call demonic rituals and cannibalism.
The case is centered in Morgan County. That is where Elena Sparenberg is charged with conspiracy to human trafficking and solicitation to murder. Our team found out about her arrest yesterday. Overnight, West Liberty police explained in detail what she and an inmate are accused of doing. Mariah Congito is at the alert desk. Mariah, that information pretty hard to read.
Yeah, it definitely is hard to read. It's very disturbing. It dates back to September when the West Liberty Police Department got a criminal investigation referral from Kentucky Department of Corrections internal affairs investigators regarding intercepted inmate and visitor correspondence. That visitor, Elena Sparenberg. Sparenberg, a former youth counselor out of Illinois, was identified as that visitor who is talking with the Department of Corrections inmate. Now, he is from Harlan County and has been in jail since 2021 on several charges, including murder. During the course of the investigation, police executed a search warrant at Sparenberg's home in Illinois. They seized electronic devices. Police say the correspondence between Sparenberg and the inmate included images, videos, electronic messages, letters, and calls. Their conversations referenced minors and adults regarding sexual abuse, rape, kidnapping, murder, mutilation, torture, satanic rituals, cannibalism, human trafficking, abuse of corpse, collecting human remains for sexual purposes, and more. Police say images depicted minors from a sporting organization. Coaches and parents have been notified, as well as others who police say were possibly in danger as future victims. Sparenberg was extradited from Illinois to Kentucky this week on a Morgan County warrant. And as for the inmate, we are still working to learn his name. Police haven't released it yet. Kristen?
That is crazy. That is absolutely freaking insane. I'm going to try to pull up that link. It's wdtn.com/news/Los Angeles. wdtn.com/news. Okay. I'm going to try. If I can't pull it up this way, then I'm going to try to see if I can. Okay. Let's see. Search Menendez. Hold on. It's still loading. It takes a second to load. I closed out YouTube, so it should work. I think we still got about 6 minutes. Oh my goodness. I don't know that it's going to load right. I'll try that. I'll have to pull up YouTube. Oh, Bellis, thank you so much. That was so sweet of you. I can't tell who they went to because my phone is still downloading the video. I appreciate that. That was so very sweet of you. Thank you so very much. If you were gifted a membership from Abellas, please tell her thank you. And I'm gonna jump on the crazy train headed for Speculation Station. Hold on, y'all. I've got technical difficulties. Okay. Now, if you were gifted a membership from Abellas, please tell her thank you. Thank you so much, Abellas. That was so very sweet of you. I really appreciate the support. Thank you so very much. If you guys were gifted a membership from Abellas, please tell her thank you. And I will jump on the crazy train headed for Speculation Station to come pick y'all up. Thank you so much, Abellas. That was so very sweet of you. Yeah, I see that you're here. You can come up if you want to. I'm going to pull up YouTube for now until they start it. Okay. Hold on and I'll get YouTube pulled up. I'm going to see if I can find it on here real quick. I don't even know how to spell it. Menendez. Let's see. I don't see anything. All right. Let's see. Maybe we could watch something on it real quick, though. This is from 6 hours ago.
Eric and Lyle Menendez now
Hold on.
talking about what life is like.
Let me make it full screen.
Eric and Lyle Menendez now talking about what life is like in prison and being violently attacked by other inmates. This all comes as they wait to hear us hearing on whether they should be resentenced for the murder of their parents. ABC's Matt Gutman has details for us.
In an extraordinary move, the Menendez brothers calling into a podcast, TMZ's Two Angry Men podcast with Harvey Levin and Mark Garagos, their defense attorney. Eric Menendez describing the terror behind bars.
I faced a lot of bullying and trauma. It was a dangerous environment.
What happened to you?
I was picked on, bullied violently, and it was traumatic. And it was continual. And, there's the things that a lot of inmates in prison go through and when they're not part of a gang structure.
And Eric says he didn't fight back.
I'm not going to fight back.
Thank you, sir.
I'm not going to, engage. And I had no one to really turn to for help.
The brothers served 21 years of their sentence in separate prisons. Eric describing how he felt when he says he learned his brother Lyle had been violently attacked.
I was told.
Okay. Thank you, Hio. I feel bad for them. I hate that anybody had to experience anything like that, but, I just, it happens, unfortunately, in our prison system. And, I wish, especially considering how young they were, I wish that maybe they had been protected a little bit more, but unfortunately, it's not unheard of. I wish it was.
Old Lyle just got assaulted and got his jaw broken, and it was. I'm thinking he's over there. I'm going through this over here, and at least we could protect each other. Maybe if we were together.
Next month, the brothers face a critical hearing when a judge will decide whether they should be resentenced for the gruesome murders of their parents, Kitty and Jose. The 2024 Netflix series shining a spotlight on their case and the alleged sex abuse by their father.
This is done. This is done. You understand?
Lyle believes that the TV show helped people understand the childhood trauma he and Eric endured.
I haven't seen that. I need to watch it.
And that was Matt Gutman reporting for us. Of the three legal avenues for their release, resentencing remains the most likely. LA County District Attorney Nathan Hochman tells ABC News that his team continues to examine the case, and so far they've not made a decision.
Hello, I'm Mark Brown. Get more great ABC7 content by clicking the subscribe button for our...
Okay. So I can't, I looked at what you sent me and there's nothing on there yet. I don't know if you can you put that article you had in back chat so I can try to pull that up again? I'm going to check the news channel through here because it won't pull it up on pulls it up on the wrong place. Okay, here's the article. All right, while that's loading, let me see. It's WDTN TV. They're not showing it live yet. Now they're showing it live. But it looked like it was just traffic cams right now. Yeah. Land of Illusion camera. What is that? Now I'm just being nosy. I'm about to check this article. I had to give it a second to load. Oh, Land of Illusion is a playground or play park. I wonder where that's at and what it is. I'm curious now as to what that is. Huh. The more you know. Okay, I'm going to share this live stream or this article. Hopefully it'll be a live stream or we'll get some kind of update. Hey, Smoky Mountain. Hold on just a minute. Okay. So let's see. Los Angeles DA to give update in Menendez brothers resentencing. Says the Los Angeles District Attorney will give an update on Friday on the case of Lyle and Eric Menendez, the brothers who are seeking release after their 1996 conviction for the murder of their wealthy parents at their Beverly Hills home. District Attorney Nathan Hoffman, who took office in December, has yet to say whether he supports the proposed resentencing for the brothers, which will be taken up at a March hearing and would make them immediately eligible for parole. I'm not going to continue to read through all that. Okay. It's not telling me anything yet. It tells us about the case. And that says Trump makes a major something for the first time this month. So it's 3 minutes past 1 o'clock there, as far as I know. So it should, I should be up. Do you got it?
District Attorney Maria Ramirez.
Okay.
We have Deputy District Attorneys Ethan Milius and Seth Carmack. As promised, after I became District Attorney on December 3rd, we have put in the hard work to understand the Menendez case. We've reviewed over 50,000 trial transcript pages from 2 months-long trials that the Menendezes had back in the early 1990s. We also have spoken to defense attorneys. We've spoken to the prosecutors. We've spoken to law enforcement. We've even spoken to every Menendez family member who wanted to speak with us. So we've done the hard work to understand the Menendez case. And right now, the Menendez case is on 3 parallel tracks. The first track is a habeas track. That is a motion that was filed in May of 2023, where in that motion, the Menendezes are saying that they have effectively new evidence. And we'll get into this in more detail in a moment. New evidence that militates and warrants and justifies a new trial. The second track is a petition for clemency that the Menendezes have taken directly to Governor Newsom. Governor Newsom has the constitutional power, and it's unilateral, to grant that petition of clemency and commute the Menendez's case and release them immediately. He has that power today. He's had that power since 2019. He can exercise it. However, he has no deadline. There's no court hearing, and there's no appeal from his exercise of that power. And the third track is a track called resentencing. Resentencing is a somewhat California notion. There's not too many states that have a resentencing statute. The resentencing gets triggered by a district attorney's motion, or in some circumstances, the motion of a court. And that motion, unlike a habeas motion, where a habeas motion will focus on the trial itself, a resentencing motion focuses on that trial but goes beyond that and deals with rehabilitation and other factors. Today, we're going to focus in two different things. The first is in order to explain the procedures that the Menendez case has gone through, we have created a video that can be accessed at our website, which is da.lacounty.gov. Again, that's da.lacounty.gov. And that video actually does an anatomy of the Menendez case. And it takes the case from the murders itself back on August 20th of 1989 through the investigation into the charges that were filed in the arrests. Then it looks at the motions that were filed by the Menendezes prior to the trials. Then it looks at the first trial, which resulted in hung juries. Then the second trial, which resulted in convictions for first-degree murder of both Jose Menendez, the father, and a separate first-degree murder conviction for Kitty Menendez, the mother, as well as a conviction for conspiracy to commit murder and certain special circumstances allegations of lying in wait and multiple murders. That video then continues on, though. It goes through the penalty phase, where the Menendezes were either facing the death penalty or life without the possibility of parole as determined by a jury. Then the sentencing. Then it actually goes through the various appeals, the direct appeals, all the way up to the California Supreme Court. The first habeas petition, again, with the California Supreme Court. The federal habeas petitions with a U.S. District Court and a Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. In all those situations, as you will hear, the Menendezes have raised many of the same exact arguments that they raised in the current habeas petition. Those arguments have been heard by a variety of courts, from the trial judge to the direct appeal Court of Appeals and California Supreme Court, to the California Supreme Court again, to the federal courts. They've considered these arguments, and they have been routinely and repeatedly rejected. So we have the video that is coming out and go through this procedural history so that people can actually learn from the Menendez case and help and actually educate themselves on the criminal justice system. What I've said very often is if the Menendez case is the portal by which people come into the criminal justice system and show an interest in it to find out what's happening, then hopefully they will educate them further about what happened not just in the Menendez case, but cases, criminal cases that are occurring throughout this entire county, this state, and this country every single day. So the video is coming out today, and it'll be out on our website. The second thing that we have done today is that we have filed an informal response in connection with the habeas motion. As I mentioned before, there are these three parallel tracks: the habeas, the clemency, the resentencing. Again, the clemency is up to the governor. Resentencing we will be dealing with in the future, in the next coming weeks, with our response. But today we have filed the informal response on the habeas petition. Now, something you need to know about a habeas petition. It's not the direct appeal. The Menendezes have already had their direct appeal through the California Court of Appeals and California Supreme Court, and they have lost. They've even had one level of California habeas, which they lost, and one level of federal habeas, which they've also lost. So now they've come back for a second California habeas petition. And in coming back for that, they have basically said there are two new pieces of evidence, along with their arguments, that justify them getting a new trial. Now, in a habeas petition, there are very rigorous requirements to actually get that new trial, which makes sense because you've already gone through all these different layers of review. And if you've been rejected time and time again, at some point the system says that unless you have something very new and very compelling that is more likely to change the outcome of this case, then we are going to again reject your habeas petition. So when they come out in this case, they come out with two new pieces of evidence. One piece being an undated photocopy of a letter purportedly sent by Eric Menendez to his cousin Andy Cano at approximately December 1988, although there's no date on the letter, in which it discusses sexual abuse that was being experienced by Eric, perpetrated against him by his father at that time. That's the one piece of evidence that they've come forward, but they also came forward with a second piece of allegedly new evidence. The second piece of new evidence was a declaration by Roy Rossello, who basically said that in the early 1980s, he had been sexually abused by Jose Menendez. But the standard to actually have a successful habeas petition requires that you meet all of the following requirements. You have to show that it's new evidence. You have to show that it's timely, that it was evidence that could not be discovered at the time of the trial, but only could be discovered after the trial. You have to show that you did not engage in any substantial delay between the time you learned about the evidence and the time you brought your motion. The evidence has to be admissible, and the evidence has to be credible. Now, the overall argument about this new evidence, again, new evidence effectively dealing with sexual abuse that Eric Menendez experienced by his father, or a gentleman named Roy Rossello experienced by Jose Menendez, the defense has now argued the following. They've said to resolve this case, jurors had to decide a single critical question. Was Jose Menendez molesting his sons? The problem with saying that that is the critical question in the Menendez trial is that it's wrong. The jury never, in any of the two juries, had to resolve the question of whether the Menendez brothers were sexually molested. In fact, the counsel, Leslie Abrahamson, 30 years before, during these trials, properly framed where sexual abuse comes into play. What she said back then is that we have never said that because you're abused, you're justified in killing your abuser. We didn't argue that, and we never will. Well, 30 years later, apparently, the Menendez counsel is arguing just that. Because what the jury had to figure out is on the night of August 20th, 1989, did the Menendezes conspire to kill both their father and their mother that night? Did they in fact kill them? And what was their state of mind at that time on the night of August 20th, 1989? Did they engage in these killings willfully, deliberately, and with premeditation, or was it an act of self-defense? They had an actual fear of imminent harm, that both their father and their mother was going to kill them, and they acted in self-defense. The sexual abuse part, as Leslie Abrahamson recognized correctly back then, was not a fourth question for the jury to answer. So when we look now at the factors dealing with this new evidence, we can go through these factors. Timely evidence that is discovered after the trial, for which there is no substantial delay in presenting it. Well, if this letter, supposedly dated December 1988, written by Eric Menendez to Andy Cano, is to be believed, and that it was actually sent at that time, here's what we know. We know that Eric Menendez, during his second trial, testified for 7 days about graphic descriptions of the sexual abuse that he had encountered by his father between the ages of 6 and 18. He also talked about sexual abuse that his brother Lyle had experienced by his father between the ages of 6 and 8. That evidence was brought in, and he was asked about who he spoke to about this sexual abuse during that time period. He said he had spoken to Andy Cano. When did he speak to Andy Cano? He said when he was between the ages of 12 and 13, and Andy Cano was approximately 10 years old. That was before Eric Menendez moved from New Jersey to California, roughly 6 years before these 1989 killings. So Andy Cano also testified in the trial, and Andy Cano relayed the same information, that he had had this conversation with Eric Menendez 6 years before the 1989 killings, when he was 10 and Eric Menendez was either 12 or 13. They spoke several times that year, and that was the only conversations they had about the sexual abuse, only communications they had. So now we have a letter filed in May of 2023 that is supposedly a 1988 letter written from Eric Menendez to Andy Cano about this sexual abuse, never discussed in any of the two trials when Eric Menendez testified or Andy Cano testified. And we believe it's inconceivable, as we've argued in our papers, and defies common sense, that if they had evidence that would show that sexual abuse had been communicated not just 6 years before the events, but 9 months before the 1989 killings, that it would absolutely have come out during one or both of their testimonies. So the fact that it didn't come out, again, goes to whether or not this evidence first was discovered after the trial. If Eric Menendez wrote this letter, he had it or knew about it, or Andy Cano had it and certainly knew about it by the time of the 1993 trials. In fact, it's a 1988 letter. They would certainly have it by the time of the 1995 trials. So to say that this letter was not discovered after the trial, as it's been alleged in the defense papers, we believe is just wrong. The second thing with this letter is that if the letter was real, then the question is, when is the substantial delay triggered in actually filing this motion? So what you find in the motion is Eric Menendez is saying, I didn't know about the letter until effectively a 2015 special by Barbara Walters, where this letter had been given to her, and she actually broadcast this letter in 2015. But remember, this motion, this habeas motion, this second habeas motion, was not brought in 2015. It wasn't brought in 2020. It was brought in 2023. So one of the additional standards for a habeas motion is that you do not engage in substantial delay in bringing this motion. Andy Cano had long since passed. He passed in 2003. So he was now around to actually cross-examine and see if this letter was an actual letter that he had received or not. Or perhaps he received it, but he didn't receive it in 1988. He received it at some date much later than that. So this particular letter it could have been discovered prior or during the trials, and then wasn't presented it was presented after substantial delay, even when both Lyle and Eric Menendez say that they had this letter. The third standard is admissibility. Let me deal with the Roy Rossello letter to give you an idea how the admissibility standard works. The letter has to be it has to comply with the admissibility standards of evidence in a court. Now remember, in 1989, August 20th, the issue is what is going on in Eric and Lyle's head at the time they shotgunned their parents 12 times to their death. Are they again have an actual fear of imminent harm and death, that their parents were going to kill them that night? Or was it a willful, premeditated, and deliberate act on their part? What they have said about the Roy Rossello allegations, that he was sexually abused by Jose Menendez in the early 1980s, is they didn't know about this in 1989. They didn't know about this in 1999 or 2009. They first found out about this in 2022, or approximately 2022, about over 30 years later after the killings. So the evidence, if in fact this is true of what Roy Rossello is saying, would not be admissible to show their state of mind in 1989 because they didn't know about it in 1989. So again, it would fail the admissibility standard, as we've argued in our habeas informal response. The last standard, of course, is credibility. Is this credible evidence? We argue in many different ways it is not credible evidence. The first way, as I've discussed before, is that if they had this evidence, if this letter truly existed, the defense counsel would have absolutely used it at the trial, because it would have helped corroborate both Eric Menendez's testimony about sexual abuse and Andy Cano's testimony about sexual abuse, because that letter was 8 months, roughly 8 or 9 months before the murders, not 6 years before the murders. But it was never mentioned, its contents were never mentioned, it was never produced or in any way used during either one of the two trials. But the notion that this letter could be part of a continuum of lies and deceit and fabricating stories required us to go back into the history of the Menendez case to analyze whether or not that would be true. And when we analyzed that, what we found out is that Eric and Lyle Menendez had told 5 different versions of the events of what had happened. The first version that they told is that they did not kill their parents. This was the version they told when they were first confronted, or they first made their 911 call. And they said that someone had murdered their parents, obviously not them. When they confronted the police, and the police showed up that night, they ran out screaming and crying that their parents had been murdered. They'd come home and found them that way. They didn't admit it themselves. That they went ahead, and in that version again, they said it was a mafia hit. And they had the police investigate whether or not Jose Menendez had been killed by the mafia. That was the first version. The second version was that their father was a violent sexual predator who raped Lyle's girlfriend. This was a version that was shown when Lyle's girlfriend came forward and said that Lyle had confronted her and said that he wanted her to testify that his dad had violently raped her and that he wanted her to testify to that at trial. She refused to do so. The third version that Lyle told was that their father had molested Eric, but the mother had molested Lyle, without any mention of Lyle being molested by his father. Again, that version ultimately didn't show up at trial in their defense. The fourth version is that Eric and Lyle were both molested by their father, and the fifth version is that both their father and their mother were going to kill them the night of August 20th, 1989, which is why they shot them first. And I want to focus on the difference in many respects between the fourth and the fifth versions. Because again, the key for the trial is basically what happened that night. What was in their head that night? Sexual abuse is abhorrent, and we will prosecute sexual abuse in any form it comes. But sexual abuse in this situation, while it may have been a motivation for Eric and Lyle to do what they did, does not constitute self-defense. And that's why Leslie Abrahamson said back in 1993 that sexual abuse does not justify killing your parents, and that they would never argue that. So what happens in this continuum as we analyze some of the examples of the lies and the differing stories that have been told is that we actually saw stuff that was lied about before the killings, at the time of the killings, and in the months and years afterwards. And this evidence ranges from everything, including days before the killings. The Menendezes didn't go ahead and get their shotguns in Los Angeles and use their real names. They drove down to San Diego and used a fake ID and a fake address of one of Lyle's friends. Hours before the murders happened, they came up with a pre-planned alibi where they had actually gone ahead and contacted one of their friends to say that they were going to go to Batman the movie that night, and they would meet the friend afterwards at the Taste of LA event. During the murders, the way that the murders actually happened was instructive to understand the deceit and the planning that went into it. There was over 12 shotgun blasts that occurred that night. One of the shotgun blasts was to Jose Menendez through the back of his head. After he was dead, there were shotgun blasts to each one of his knees. The shotgun blast to the mom.
That's so sweet, YouTube.
She actually ended up lying on the ground, groaning and bleeding.
Oh, I was just saying that's really sweet, YouTube, and I'm really happy for you. That's so awesome. I'm so happy for you.
You
can play it.
Okay. And that's at the point where Lyle and Eric Menendez had run out of ammunition, reload, And Lyle puts the reloaded shotgun up to his mother's face and pulls the trigger, thus staging it at the time like a gangland hit, which then becomes their deceit and lie in the ensuing months that occurred. Then you had the deception that occurred where they hid the evidence of their crime. They had the wherewithal that night before they left the house to pick up each one of the shotgun shells that had been expended. They then had the shotgun shells with them. They had the bloody clothing and the shotguns. And they proceeded to go to Mulholland Drive to dump the shotguns and to a car wash's dumpster to drop off the shotgun shells and their bloody clothing. Then they decided to execute the pre-planned alibi. Again, the deliberate, premeditated state at this point where they went ahead and they actually went to the movie theater to get the tickets for Batman the movie. Turns out that they couldn't get the 8 o'clock tickets because it was already past 10 o'clock. Then they called their friend to meet him at the Taste of LA, but by the point they got there, he'd already moved on. Then they actually called a friend to meet him again in another restaurant, and they never show up. Eventually, that friend comes to the house later that night, only to see police tape around the house. Now, after they were arrested, the Menendezes also tried to suborn perjury in a number of different respects. They contacted one of Lyle's girlfriends, Tracy Baker, gave her an actual script, a script that was actually found by the police, where it said that they wanted her to testify that Lyle's mother, Kitty Menendez, had poisoned them, had poisoned the whole family. She actually did.
Bellis, are you okay? I do see
I hope you're
that.
okay.
Look, I see that.
Oh my goodness.
You see it?
A magnet. No, the sun's shining on my laptop. Oh my goodness.
4.8. Did you feel it? Are you all right? Oh my gosh.
She said, yeah, I think so. My neighbors are texting. Oh my God, Abellis. Is there anything I can do to help you? I mean, I don't know what, but if there's something I can do, let me know.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I was trying to see if I. That says it just happened.
Oh, I don't know if y'all heard. If y'all heard this, I have this thing. I didn't know that my camera was on or my mic was on. So if you heard it, I guess it was sounded. But this, I'll do it again. That is not a whippet. It's a thing that's supposed to freeze off a spot on my foot. I don't want to it's a thing to freeze off like spots and moles and things that you have. And I was using it to freeze off the spot on my foot. It's from Compound W. So I'm sure you can figure out what it is. I didn't want nobody to think I'm over here doing whippets or something.
Well, you're about 2 minutes away from 3 hours. I guess you want to go back to it, or do you want to just let everybody finish that up on their own?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna go for the day, because I do have some other things I need to get done. I'm still trying very hard to get this video out. It's a 2.5 hour video, and I've tried for 2 days now to get it out. And so I'm going to continue working on that for now. But I love y'all. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Hio, for coming up and sharing that. I do appreciate it. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, guys. Tomorrow, again, is going to be the stream for Maddie's birthday. And we'll do the fundraising and stuff like that. And I'll see y'all tomorrow. I hope y'all have a good Friday. Happy Friday. Enjoy your evening. Congratulations again, YouTube. Abellis, message me later. Keep us updated. Let me know that you're okay. And YouTube, I'm really excited for you that your son just got engaged. That is so very sweet. And I'll see y'all tomorrow. Thank you so much for your love and support. I really enjoy our time we spend together every day. You guys make this channel amazing. And I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye.